Ghouls are the weakest species in the monster forest, surviving day to day only by scavenging rotting carrion. Whenever they cross paths with stronger beasts, they get beat down like absolute chumps. But one day, these pathetic scavengers suddenly become crazy powerful, hunting down other species and rising to the absolute top of the food chain. Even more surprising, the mastermind behind this massive shift is actually a human. Meet Hanso, a highly promising young weightlifter and a rising star in South Korea. During a competition, he tried to lift a massive 10-ton weight just to show off for the crowd. It was a catastrophic flex, and the ultimate result was our guy getting Isekai'd to another world. When he finally opened his eyes, he was staring right at a flock of derpy-faced chickens. He honestly thought that because he ate way too much chicken breast in his past life, he ended up in a poultry-filled hell where chickens were chasing him down. But these punks seriously underestimated Hanso, who immediately beat them to a pulp. That was when Hanso suddenly realized he could see the chickens' stats and status windows, just like in a video game. Turns out, despite their incredibly derpy faces, they were packed with an insanely high protein content. Starving and desperate, our boy devoured the entire flock. It was only after finishing his meal that Hanso realized the harsh truth. He had transmigrated into the body of a scrawny, stick-thin kid. Just like that, years of grinding, bulking, and downing whey protein to build a perfect six-pack was completely down the drain. Fortunately, Hanso's monstrous strength was still intact. He ripped a massive tree right out of the ground with his bare hands and threw it over his shoulders to start working out and regain his physique. 3 months later, Hanso's body was much bulkier, though it was still nothing compared to his previous life. Looking at those fat, juicy-looking chickens, he decided it was time to load up on some more protein. Right then, something suddenly crept up behind him. He spun around to check it out, only to get the absolute fright of his life. Standing there was a colossal, giant-sized chicken. Since Hanso had wiped out its entire flock of babies, it had come today seeking cold-blooded revenge. Knowing he was no match for this beast, he immediately booked it. Just one solid hit from that monster would turn his body into pure mush. Even while running for his life, Hanso could not help but feel extremely jealous of the giant chicken's massive, rock-hard chest muscles. Gym bros who lift for over 180 minutes are seriously built different. And so, a wild game of cat and mouse between a man and a giant chicken unfolded in the forest. As Hanso was running, 2 derpy chickens suddenly popped out of the grass. They even smugly smirked at him as if saying, "Karma's a beast, punk. That's what you get for eating us the other day." Hanso was incredibly pissed, but he couldn't do a thing because a crazy, bloodthirsty giant chicken was hot on his heels. While fleeing, Hanso suddenly activated his Hawkeye skill. Through it, he discovered the massive bird's name was Cocatrice, and it weighed a whopping 1.2 tons. Eating the Cocatrice's chest meat would unlock a rare skill called muscle recovery. Hearing that, Hanso decided to stop running and turn around to fight it head-on. Valuing gains over your own life is truly wild. Most people think building muscle is just about working out, but that is not quite true. In reality, working out actually tears down and damages the muscle fibers, temporarily reducing their strength and capability. But when we get proper nutrition and rest, those damaged muscle fibers start to recover and grow back even larger than before. This entire process is known as muscle recovery. Hanso figured if he could just slay this giant chicken, his legendary physique would finally return. Mid-battle, Hanso accidentally activated his rapid arm-spinning skill. With just a single devastating punch, he blew the giant chicken's head clean off, successfully taking its life. Now that is what I call a massive protein intake for some serious gains. System warning. Muscle endurance has been depleted. Muscle recovery has been activated. That evening, Hanso enjoyed a delicious feast of roasted chicken. A pinch of seasoned salt would have made it absolutely perfect. But Hanso had no idea that in the nearby woods, several pairs of greedy, starving eyes were staring right at him, drooling with intense hunger. Actually, those creepers were just 3 local inhabitants. Having not smelled meat in ages, they were practically starving, which explained their drooling reaction. They quickly realized Hanso was the warrior who had defeated the giant Cocatrice, the absolute nightmare of the entire forest. At first, the trio didn't dare get too close to Hanso, thinking he was highly dangerous. But their hunger got the best of them, so they threw all dignity out the window and sat down nearby, begging for a scrap. When Hanso asked who they were, they revealed they were ghouls from the Amy region. He immediately activated his Hawkeye skill to scan their information. Sure enough, they weren't lying. Hanso found himself quite intrigued, as this was his very first time meeting ghouls. One of the ghouls mentioned they were searching for the warrior who had slain the Cocatrice and asked if Hanso had any clues. Hanso casually admitted he was the one who killed it, even apologizing because he thought the giant bird belonged to someone. Hearing this, the three ghouls were overjoyed and began to explain. Since the most dominant monster in the region was dead, a massive territorial war had broken out among the species in Amy. The Cocatrice wasn't very smart, but it was incredibly aggressive when anyone encroached on its territory. Their main goal was to beg Hanso to help save the ghoul tribe, but he flat out refused because he was way too busy working out to reclaim his former physique. Hearing his refusal, the three ghouls were deeply disappointed and had no choice but to say goodbye to Hanso and head back to their village. Seeing the three ghouls leaving empty-handed, Hanso told them to take some chicken meat to eat. After all, he couldn't possibly finish it all by himself. The ghouls thanked Hanso for his generosity. They hadn't eaten meat in ages, so they were absolutely thrilled. Just then, one of the three was about to bend down and lift a massive chunk of meat. Hanso couldn't stand seeing such terrible form, so he immediately stepped in to stop him. He started explaining that lifting heavy weights with improper posture could lead to extremely dangerous back injuries. The young ghoul just stood there completely clueless, having absolutely no idea what our gym-obsessed hero was talking about. Doesn't anyone here know what a deadlift is? What's that? This is the first time we've ever heard of such a thing. No wonder your limbs are as skinny as twigs. Hanso then recalled a valuable lesson his elementary school gym teacher once taught him. Hanso, only when you can teach someone else do you truly master the craft. If your muscle growth ever plateaus, try coaching someone. It will definitely help you push through. Hanso felt his teacher's advice made a lot of sense, so he decided to help the three young ghouls transport the meat back to their village. Inside the ghoul village, Hanso was being personally welcomed by the ghoul lord. The ghoul lord thanked Hanso for providing food aid to the villagers. However, during their conversation, Hanso could only focus on the lord's bizarre physique. His limbs were skinny as twigs, yet his belly was bloated with fat. This was a textbook case of obesity, caused by a complete lack of exercise. This guy probably drank a lot and lived on greasy food, just like my old, hairy-mouthed, pot-bellied boss back in my previous life. Skipping the pleasantries, Hanso told the ghoul lord to get straight to business. He asked what the lord had summoned him for. The ghoul lord revealed that they were in deep trouble because of the death of the giant chicken, the Cocatrice. The ghoul tribe was the weakest faction in Alamai. Lacking both physical strength and skills, they had to scavenge carcasses just to survive. When Hanso said he had absolutely no idea about any of this, the ghoul lord became furious. He immediately ordered his guards to arrest the three ghouls who had brought Hanso to the village. Soon, the three were bound and dragged right before the ghoul lord. He glared at them and asked, "Do you still not realize your crime?" Before ordering his guards to bring out that item, "You must swear loyalty to the strong. That is the law of the jungle, and it has been that way for a very long time. So I wanted to lure the one who defeated the Cocatrice and make him submit to me. But you dared to deceive me. Now, pay for it with your lives." Heavy blunt skill, double strength. Just as the ghoul lord was about to execute the three ghouls, Hanso stopped his massive mace bare-handed. Wasting other people's time and bullying the weak. Is this how things are run in this village? I definitely activated my skill. Maybe I didn't direct my power correctly. Otherwise, how could a puny human possibly block my attack? The ghoul lord assumed Hanso was just lucky, so he began boasting that he would show him his true power. My skill is heavy blunt. It can increase my weapon's weight by 2 to 10 times. With his current mana pool, the ghoul lord could boost the weight of his mace by 4 times. The mace itself weighed 32 kilograms, so multiplying it by 4 made it nearly 130 kilograms. Combined with the ghoul lord's swing, the destructive power was absolutely insane. But Hanso merely blocked it with his bare hands, and without him even trying, the mace shattered into pieces right before the lord's terrified eyes. Hanso then easily subdued the ghoul lord, using just 2 fingers to grab him by his weak point, leaving him too terrified to even flinch. While playing it cool, Hanso didn't forget to flex that he was only this strong thanks to bodybuilding exercises. Of course, none of the ghouls had ever heard of such a thing. So, Hanso challenged the ghoul lord to a deadlift showdown to show these ghouls what bodybuilding was all about. If Hanso lost, he would have to become the ghoul lord's subordinate. Hanso reminded him to maintain proper posture, warning him about back injuries, but the ghoul lord just flashed a sinister smile. It turned out he had another skill called heavy blunt that could reduce the weight of an object. Once activated, the barbell's weight would drop to just 1/4 of its original weight. Just like that, the ghoul lord successfully lifted a weight of 200 kilograms. But in reality, it only weighed 50 kilograms. When it was Hanso's turn, he told the crowd to watch his movements and posture very closely. Before lifting, Hanso had to warm up. Properly stretching the muscles is the only way to avoid cramps during a heavy workout. The deadlift is a full-body exercise, but it primarily targets the lower body. First, stand upright with your feet shoulder-width apart. Second, puff out your chest and keep a straight posture, letting your back support the weight. Next, find your center of gravity through the middle of your feet. Slowly drive the weight up using your lower body and then your whole body, and finally bring it up to knee level. At that moment, the ghoul lord secretly played dirty, multiplying the weight of Hanso's 200-kilogram barbell several times over. But no matter what dirty tricks he pulled, our hero wasn't fazed at all. Hanso didn't just lift the bar, he tossed it high into the air, leaving the entire village in absolute awe. Witnessing this, everyone, including the ghoul lord, fell to their knees, begging him to be their new leader. And just like that, Hanso officially became the ultimate leader of the ghoul village. From Gulo, the ghoul king, Hanso learned a few things. This place was a world completely different from Earth, but there were also legends that those transported here could actually return to their original world. This world is called Lesa, a place driven by a brutal, literal law of the jungle. The ghoul king's name is Gulo, so we'll call him that from now on. Gulo led Hanso to the training ground of the ghoul warriors. Calling it a training ground was a massive stretch. In reality, it was just an empty, barren field with absolutely nothing on it. Hanso ordered everyone in the village to gather there immediately. Although they had no idea what their new leader was up to, they still obeyed and lined up neatly. Hanso knew that the ghouls were seen as weaklings, surviving only on the scraps left behind by other races. But that was about to change. If they wanted to survive, they needed to build strong, resilient bodies. Over the next 3 months, he was going to whip them into shape and turn them into real warriors. Once they finished this training, no other race would ever look down on them again. The very first exercise in Hanso's 3-month training camp was push-ups. It sounds simple, but getting the form right is actually pretty tough. It's the key to building rock-solid chests and arms. The ghouls' mission for the day was simple: master the perfect push-up. 3 hours later, the entire crowd was completely exhausted after churning out around 700 push-ups under the scorching midday sun. Meanwhile, Hanso had smashed out over 20,000 push-ups with a massive boulder strapped to his back. And as if that wasn't enough, he even asked Gulo to make the rock heavier. The watching ghouls broke into a cold sweat, wondering what on earth their new leader was made of. By this point, the villagers were completely wiped out. Some even muttered that they'd rather have Gulo back as chief, because who could possibly survive this kind of torture? Overhearing their complaints, Hanso was absolutely furious. It's because of your pathetic, lazy attitude that everyone calls you the weakest. Are you really okay with being bottom feeders forever? This is a savage wilderness where only the strong survive. Do you plan on living like cowards, running away while your friends and families are slaughtered right in front of you? If you're really that pathetic, then get the hell out of here. I refuse to waste my time training trash. But for those who stay and keep pushing, I promise to give you the strength to protect what matters most. After Hanso's reality check, the ghoul village finally understood why this training was so crucial. Every single one of them decided to stay and push through. No matter how exhausted they were, they dug deep to finish their very first session. The more they sweat in training, the less they would bleed in battle. Hanso had sparked a fire in them to become strong. So, what makes a great trainer? It's not about knowing the most about anatomy, nor is it about pushing your own body to the absolute limit. The best trainer is the one who can ignite the determination and fighting spirit in others. Right at that moment, Hanso's eagle eye skill leveled up to level 2. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. Down the dusty path leading to the ghoul village, a group of strangers appeared. It was a band of lizardmen. Today, they were planning to invade the ghoul village and claim it as their own territory, completely unaware that Hanso had already spotted them. He immediately ordered the ghoul warriors to take their battle positions. This was going to be their first real test after 3 months of grueling training. As the lizardmen entered the canyon, a sudden barrage of massive rocks rained down from above, catching them completely off guard. Within seconds, several of them were crushed and seriously injured, unable to get back up. Only then did they realize they'd walked right into a ghoul ambush. And these weren't the weaklings they used to know. Every single ghoul was now absolutely shredded. The lizardman leader had to quickly come up with a plan, Otherwise, defeat was inevitable. Sensing Gulo's powerful energy, the leader assumed he was the one running the show. Hoping to turn the tide, he decided to issue a one-on-one challenge. "Hey, you! Ghoul Chief, step out and stop hiding like a coward behind your subordinates. Come down here and face me man to man." "Lord Hanso, how are you going to respond to his provocation?" Hanso couldn't help but recall a pet crocodile he once owned back in the day, which had an insanely powerful bite force of up to 2 tons. Yet, even that beast couldn't pierce his conditioned muscles, shattering its own teeth in the process. "You've been my pet for a long time." Having dealt with reptiles before, Hanso knew exactly what to do. Hanso leaped down and instantly pinned the leader to the ground. Step 1 to handling a lizard: flip them onto their back and expose their belly. Step 2: stare them straight in the eyes. Just like dealing with wild animals, you have to establish dominance and show them who's boss. Sure enough, staring into Hanso's terrifying gaze, the lizardman leader quickly surrendered, terrified that this crazy human might actually eat him alive. And just like that, the ghouls secured an overwhelming victory in their very first battle. Not far from Alimai lies the Principality of Wirot. What an absolute honor for a tiny nation like ours to be blessed with such extraordinary talents like yourselves. I hereby task you with investigating the mysterious disappearance of the Cocatrice. We obey your command, Count Wirot. General, is it really wise to entrust such an important mission to these young warriors? Haha, do not worry so much, Count Wirot. Though they are still young, they are rare, once-in-a-generation geniuses. Labor uses flashy swordsmanship to toy with his opponents. He is a true master of the blade. Henda, on the other hand, wields a heavy greatsword. It has the raw power to blow away any of his opponent's weapons. When those two fight together, nothing short of a dragon can bring them down. So, I assume the rather plain-looking warrior standing behind them is also an exceptional figure? Well, that guy is a bit hard to explain. Even I don't really know what he can do. Labor and Henda insisted on bringing him along since the 3 of them have been childhood friends, and well, our 2 geniuses just really like having him around. After that, the 3 of them went into the forest to investigate the mysterious disappearance of the Cocatrice. Up on a nearby tree trunk, a goblin was drawing its bow, ready to shoot them. However, Labor was still faster, skewering it with a single sword strike. By now, the other 2 were completely surrounded by goblins. Completely unfazed, Henda immediately swung his massive greatsword. Because it is a heavy weapon with massive destructive power, everywhere it swept, a pile of goblins got laid out cold. Meanwhile, the other guy, who got the easy end of the deal, hadn't even lifted a finger before his 2 best friends wiped out all the goblins. Block felt pretty jealous of them, because all 3 of them were trained by the same master, yet he was the only one who remained weak. Maybe this is just the harsh reality of the gap between geniuses and ordinary people. Meanwhile, over at Ghoul Village, a group of lizardmen was attending Hanso's intensive muscle-building boot camp. "Thank you for everything you have done for us. Don't mention it. If you ever want to train again, just drop by." The ghouls also hyped up the lizardmen, telling them they need to train with more fire if they want to get absolutely ripped like them. In the end, the lizardmen departed, wondering how ghouls, who were supposed to be notoriously weak, could get so insanely jacked. It was totally surreal. Even I was shocked by their toned bodies at first. When you train, your muscles get sore, and they actually grow during the recovery process. However, if fatigue accumulates in the central nervous system, your workout performance will suffer, and it can even cause injuries. To prevent this from happening, resting to minimize post-workout fatigue is called recharging. When the ghouls reached their 9th week of training, they were also feeling exhausted, so Hanso gave the entire village a day off. Surprisingly, the next morning, the ghouls' bodies showed clear development, not only in their muscles, but they had also grown taller. Using his eagle eye skill to assess the ghouls, Hanso discovered that their body fat percentage was insanely low, at just 8%. Even he didn't expect the ghouls to progress this fast, especially since they didn't have any gear to juice or whey protein to chug. Now that the lizardmen had left, Hanso told the entire village to get ready for dinner. One of the young guys asked if they could go hunt on their own today. It wasn't that they wanted to skip a workout or anything, it was just that they never got a chance to face their prey head-on since So had always done all the hunting. Gulo was curious whether a buff ghoul powerhouse could actually defeat So. He bluntly declared that they weren't even in his league, and when it came to weightlifting, he could take on the entire village. After that, everyone packed up their gear and set out for the hunt. Even while traveling, the ghouls still had to train their legs under Hanso's strict orders. At that moment, one of the ghouls suddenly turned around while doing his exercises and ended up injuring his ankle. Seeing this, Hanso immediately called for a halt to check on his injury. Later that night, Block was practicing his swordsmanship all by himself in the forest. He wanted to become strong so he wouldn't have to hide behind his two friends when danger strikes, just like what happened this morning. So, while everyone else was fast asleep, he kept training diligently. Suddenly, Labor walked up and reminded Block to put more pressure on his thumb to make his strikes faster and more powerful. It turned out that the noise from his training had woken his two friends up. Henda chimed in, warning him that it was already late, and if he didn't get some sleep now, he'd be completely exhausted tomorrow from sleep deprivation. Suddenly, a group of lizardmen rushed out from the forest, heading straight toward them. But the lizardmen weren't targeting them. Instead, it looked like they were desperately running away from something terrifying behind them. Right behind them was a flock of crazed chickens, which also seemed to be terrified. As it turned out, they were all being hunted down by Hanso and the ghoul village to reload on some protein. From that moment on, a brand new ecosystem was born in the forest, with Hanso standing at the absolute top of the food chain. Flashing back to that afternoon, the group was hiding behind the foliage, observing their prey. They were plump, juicy chickens that were not only delicious, but also packed with nutrients, perfect for explosive muscle growth. But still, the ghouls were still a little terrified of facing those crazed chickens. Right then, one of the crazed chickens was hunting for prey, but got wedged between two tree trunks blocking its path. Out of nowhere, the crazed chicken let out a deafening screech. Its entire body swelled up instantly, and in the blink of an eye, it easily knocked down two massive trees. Seriously, once hunger kicks in, even a chicken becomes deadly. No wonder the ghouls were too terrified to hunt them. Seeing the silly chicken's insane power, a young ghoul went to find two other trees to test his own strength. He refused to believe that after months of training, he still wasn't stronger than a chicken. But no matter how hard he tried, those two trees didn't budge at all. I'll wait 1 minute and try again. I'll let you rest for 3 whole minutes. No need to force it. Focus on how your heels move. With Hanso's advice, he corrected his form, but the roots seemed to run too deep, and he just didn't have enough power to tear them up. Just then, Hanso suddenly noticed the flock of chickens. As he watched them, he realized the key difference between the silly chickens and the ghouls. Their muscle gains have been so steady that I didn't even notice this. Is something wrong, Lord Hanso? I'm sorry, it's my fault you guys can't perform as well as them. Is our form wrong? No, it's just that your muscles have adapted to my routine. Starting right now, the ghoul village must change their training routine. Hanso gathered everyone and introduced the new equipment and exercise. What's behind me is a cable crossover. It's specially designed to break your stubborn muscle memory. From now on, you'll be using this to target your inner chest muscles. If you master this exercise, you'll easily overpower those chickens. Truly, our chief is the best. The chief always has all the answers. Cable crossovers. This exercise is perfect for stimulating chest muscle growth. It will take your gains to a whole new level, but it only works if you do it the right way. It's one of the more challenging exercises for beginners. First, lean your upper body forward slightly and bend your knees a bit. Second, keep your arms fully extended and hold your body firmly in the center throughout the entire set without swinging. Third, position yourself right in the middle of the machine. Pull the cables with the right amount of force, as if you're a bird trying to flap its wings, and then cross them over. Fourth, changing the angle of your hands will target different muscle groups in your chest. Make sure you don't shake, keep your grip steady, and don't rely on the cable's momentum. Having been taught a new exercise by their leader, the ghouls were pumped and immediately started training. By the time they faced the silly chickens again, everyone's chest muscles had grown significantly larger. But to their surprise, upon seeing this, the chickens began to level up too, growing way bigger than before. The ghouls showed no fear, charging forward as their faith in the new workout fueled their strength. Both sides clashed head-on right there in the forest. Hanso watched the battle from the sidelines using his Hawkeye skill, only to discover that the silly chickens had evolved into Cocatrices. With 132 pounds of pure protein and a body fat ratio of 12%, the ghouls stood no chance against them. If we want to stop these chickens from evolving further, we have to make sure their breast muscles stop growing. Meanwhile, back at the ghoul village, one person remained Gulo, who had been left behind on guard duty. Guarding an empty house might seem boring, but Gulo didn't mind at all. Instead, he felt incredibly happy and free. Hanso is a great guy, but our culinary tastes are worlds apart. That's why I prepared this. Today's menu: crispy fried chicken skin. The ingredients include cleaned chicken skin, flour, chili powder, oil, and salt. First, cut the washed chicken skin into even pieces. If you fry it right away, it will smell gamey, so you need to season it first to get rid of the odor. Next, mix the chili powder with the flour to create a magical coating. Finally, toss the chicken skin in the mixture and drop it into a pan of sizzling hot oil. And just like that, Gulo's golden, crispy, and crunchy fried chicken skin is ready. Back to the battle in the forest. The ghouls were being completely overwhelmed by the chickens. They had trained their inner chest muscles exactly as Hanso taught them, yet they still couldn't beat those chickens. Hanso simply explained that they had only been training for a few months, whereas the silly chickens had been developing their chest muscles for hunting since birth. Building a chest like that is no walk in the park. But that doesn't mean you have no way of winning. You have to remember how you got all the way here in the first place. You must train your foundation before you can unleash your full strength. The true source of muscle power comes from the foundation. You guys finally realized it. You might have lost using only your chest, but what if you combine it with the power of your legs? Show me your grit and determination. Fired up by our protagonist's speech, the ghouls went wild and charged at the chickens, only to be sent flying with a single slap from the silly birds. As it turned out, carrying heavy loads all the way here had already trained their leg muscles to the point of utter exhaustion. By the time Hanso realized this, it was already too late. With their victory secured, the chickens looked down at everyone with sheer contempt, as if saying, "You guys aren't even on our level." It was time for Hanso to show them who the real apex predator of this forest was. Seeing someone actually dare to challenge them, the derpy chickens lost their minds and charged straight at him. Facing a whole horde of them, Hanso remained incredibly calm. He simply reached out one hand. As the goofy chickens lunged forward, their lives suddenly flashed before their eyes in slow motion. From the moment they were just tiny, newly hatched chicks, to growing up and learning how to hunt from their parents, constantly competing with their peers. All that intense training had given them incredibly massive, shredded chest muscles. Too bad for them, the opponent they ran into today was Hanso. In the end, every single one of them ended up in his cooking pot, not a single survivor. Eat up and get that protein in, because tomorrow, you guys are catching your own meals. Yes, boss. Anyone holding a chicken drumstick right now has to do 300 push-ups. The next day, under Hanso's orders, the ghouls headed out to hunt again. He warned them to be careful, because if they got injured, they wouldn't be able to work out. Hanso wasn't joining them today, since he was busy focusing on chess day. Without their leader there to direct them, the ghouls had to come up with their own game plan. They figured that since Hanso had caught 27 of those derpy chickens all by himself yesterday, their goal today should be to bag at least 50. They decided to split the team into 3 groups. If any group ran into trouble, they would signal the other 2 to back them up. And just like that, the second hunt of the ghoul village officially kicked off. Meanwhile, 3 human adventurers stumbled upon the skeleton of the Cocatrice that Hanso had previously demolished. Its skull was completely missing, suggesting it had been obliterated by high-tier magic. Someone who can take down a Cocatrice in a single blow must be as powerful as a grand mage. Can we really take on this quest? Don't worry, Locke. Even though you're the weakest of us, we won't let you get hurt. While the 3 of them were talking, they suddenly felt the ground shake, only to see a squad of ghouls chasing chickens nearby. Before long, the ghouls spotted the 3 humans. The humans were equally shocked to see a bunch of bizarre, absolutely shredded monsters with 6-packs. Stop. Humans are brutal and bloodthirsty. We don't know what they're capable of. Making a reckless move could put everyone in danger. Wait, what is that ghoul squad doing? Is that some kind of pre-battle flex? Go call Team 1 and Team 2. We need to overwhelm them with numbers. It turned out the ghouls had figured out a way to send signals to their comrades by bouncing their pectoral muscles. Little did they know, this action ended up angering the chickens, accidentally causing them to level up. The derpy chickens evolved into cockatrices, and their faces actually looked a bit more serious now. In a blind rage, the whole flock charged at the ghouls. Team 3 thought to themselves, they were absolutely screwed this time. Fortunately, in the nick of time, the captains of Team 1 and Team 2 arrived. With reinforcements on the scene, the ghouls were no longer afraid of those cockatrices. Now, they could finally unleash the secret ultimate move they had learned from Hanso. Great job keeping proper form on those bench presses. When you can't lift with perfect form, you need a spotter. But what should we do if we want to safely tap into our true power? The answer lay in Hanso's secret bodybuilding technique. 4 ghouls would coordinate together as a unit. This allowed the vanguard strike to carry the combined strength of all 3 ghouls backing him up. Relying on this formation, the 4 ghouls easily dominated the chickens, but there was one extra ghoul left over, who was about to get singled out by a Cocatrice. The 3 human adventurers decided to jump in and save him, deeply moved by the ghouls' incredible teamwork and unity. Just as both sides joined forces to take down the chickens, a brand new threat emerged. It was a massive, colossal beast. Its eyes glared at everyone with pure rage. This particular Cocatrice reminded them of a legendary dragon named Long Knot. That dragon was infamous for its greed and brutality, constantly fearing that other dragons would surpass it in the future. To prevent that, it resorted to extreme measures by scattering its own power. And that was exactly how the Cocatrices, a species closely related to dragons, came to be. Even though this overgrown chicken wasn't a true dragon, it was still an incredibly deadly threat to everyone. Meanwhile, Hanso was still so focused on his chest workout that he had no idea what was unfolding in the forest. Although his muscles were developing quite slowly, compared to his previous life, he still had plenty of time to adapt to this new world. 3 months had passed. When they first started out, they were as skinny as toothpicks. I had to teach them step by step, like showing a newborn how to walk. There were times they almost gave up, but those were just fleeting moments of weakness. In the end, they pushed through with everything they had, and not a single one of them quit. That is why their bodies have grown so much, and now they are looking great. Boss, we've got a major problem. The chickens are evolving way too fast, and everyone is in serious danger. If this keeps up, they're all doomed. Shut up and show me the way. Warning, energy levels exceed muscle tolerance, limit, danger imminent. Do you wish to cancel this skill? How dare you lay your hands on my boys? Confirmed, proceeding with skill activation. Hanso stomped his foot down to build up momentum, cracking the ground all around him. Then, he launched himself into the air, vanishing in a split second. Meanwhile, Lur and Henda were busy fighting off the giant chicken. One of them distracted it, while the other targeted its weak spots. Their strategy was solid, and they even landed a few critical hits, but the beast was way stronger than they'd anticipated. In no time, Lur got smacked right into the sky by a giant wing. Even though he was seriously hurt, the poor guy still managed to give a thumbs up to let his teammate know he was alive. Seeing this, the Hungry Ghoul team had no choice but to unleash their secret battle formation. The ultimate technique of a bodybuilder. The human pyramid. But the chickens' attacks were just too brutal, and it didn't take long for their formation to be completely shattered. Just as the ghouls were about to meet their end, something crashed down from above, obliterating the chicken. As the dust cleared, the savior stood revealed. It was Gulo. As for Hanso, he jumped a bit too hard and ended up landing in the wrong spot. Right at that moment, a massive flock of giant chickens swarmed in, surrounding Gulo. Showing zero fear, he mocked them, asking if that was all they had. That ghoul really did look like a true demon king. That long-range strike was pretty impressive. What are you looking at? Did you featherbrains really think I came here unprepared? Did the Ghoul King actually plan all of this? I've drawn their attention, now take the chance to wipe them out. Lord Hanso, please appear. Chief, why aren't you showing up? Where are you, Chief? The Ghoul King was bragging big time to the chickens, but if this backfires, he is done for. Unlike the other ghouls, Gulo never joined in on the bodybuilding workouts, yet his high status remained completely untouched. So how did he hold on to his position when everyone else in the village was getting insanely strong? It was because Hanso had entrusted him with a crucial job, managing everyone's lifting weights. Left with no other choice, Gulo had to activate his weight-increasing skill. His heavy blank skill had actually reached its maximum level, growing stronger and stronger without him even realizing it. Earlier, Gulo had crushed a giant chicken with just a single rock. But now that they'd brought backup, even he was starting to sweat. Seeing this, the ghouls began cheering him on. If he can take out that chicken in one shot, he really is as strong as Hanso. Nobody could possibly one-shot a monster that massive. Maybe I really am a genius. After all, I've been built different from regular ghouls since the day I was born. Bring it on, you oversized chickens. The great Ghoul King will take you all down. But right after bragging, Gulo got slapped so hard he went flying into orbit. We're seriously done for. Henda, Lur, I'm sorry I could never understand your jokes. Having my friends beside me in my final moments. At least I won't die alone. We will fight to our very last muscle fiber. Thank you, Chief, for training us. The workouts were brutal, but we truly felt the joy of getting stronger. If there's a next life, please train us all over again. Elsewhere, Hanso had tracked down where Gulo crashed. The ghouls are in serious danger. Chief, please save them. Calm skill activated. Warning. Detected an emotion that overpowers the calm skill. Calm skill has been cancelled. Wait. What is going on? Wait, where are those chickens running to all of a sudden? It turns out they felt a massive threat radiating from Hanso, so they rushed over to surround him instead. You guys better back off. I'm trying my absolute best to stay calm here. Warning. Detected an emotion exceeding the calm skill. The user is being scanned. The calm skill will be disabled for 24 hours. This chest vibration. It has to be Lord Hanso. Who is this Lord Hanso you keep talking about anyway? He's our mentor and our leader. His muscles are on a whole different level compared to ours. That's it? Words can't do him justice. Once you see him, you'll understand. Why didn't you just say that from the start? Lord Han. So is our new Demon King. I still have absolutely no idea what these guys are talking about. Meanwhile, Hanso was facing down an entire horde of giant chickens all by himself. With a single, powerful hand strike, he launched one of the chickens into orbit. Seeing this, 2 other chickens immediately leaped into the air, aiming to crush the ground right where Hanso was standing. Even though he got pushed deep into the dirt, he didn't even flinch. Using a perfect deadlift technique, he tossed them both aside like paperweights. While leaping out of the pit, Hanso knocked out another chicken. My ancestors taught me that your kind can actually grow muscle from vibrations inside your chest. That's exactly why I dragged you all out here. This is the perfect spot. I can build muscle just using my own chest. How about you guys? Can you even do that? Placing his hands flat on the ground, the shadow of an infinitely heavy dumbbell materialized behind him. Hanso's muscles suddenly ballooned, making him look like an absolute giant. He then unleashed his ultimate squat strike, beating the absolute daylights out of those brainless chickens. The others arrived just in time to witness Han, so absolutely pulverizing the chickens. So, this is the Demon King those ghouls were talking about. Unleashing this kind of power, is he even human? I've pushed my legs way too much. I can't afford to waste any more time. I don't know how much longer I can keep this form up, but if I give up now, Lord Hanso, if this keeps up, I'll die of exhaustion. But it's better that only I die rather than the whole village. If I give up now, I won't have the face to stand before the former Demon King, Gulo, who volunteered to help me train. I have to settle this in a single blow. Weighted compression, maximum weight. Activate super muscle recovery at 15%. Warning. The limb muscles are struggling to support the upper body muscles. Your limb muscles are extremely weak. Please relax your upper body muscles immediately. Danger of muscle damage detected. Please relax your upper body muscles. Lord Hanso, we're all going to lend you a hand. After that, everyone joined forces and took down the chickens. That's enough training for today. Gulo, I'm really going to miss you. Before Lord Hanso arrived, he was always so grumpy. But now, as soon as he meets Hanso, he instantly becomes a nice guy. So, who's going to help me up now? Hey, don't look away, you ungrateful bunch. Just wait till you get back here. You worked hard today, Lord Hanso. Gulo's sudden appearance made everyone freeze for 5 seconds. What's wrong? I wasn't feeling well, so I took a nap before coming here. Gulo, you're still alive? What's going on? Don't all rush at me at once. Stop it, or I'll really teach you a lesson. Welcome back, Gulo. From now on, let's protect and take care of everyone together. He wiped out all those Cocatrices by himself. He's also the one who killed the Cocatrice, right? Yes, I'm pretty sure of it, Lord Wero. That Demon King is nothing to worry about, but that kid is definitely dangerous. We still don't know when they'll show their true colors. I need to think this through and find a way to deal with him. Speaking of which, where is Block? Didn't he return with you guys? Excuse me, but what are you doing? Hey kid, are you trying to hurt him? Whoa, look at this guy. He's in really great shape, no joke. Stop treating Block like an object. Do you want to become stronger than you are right now? That doesn't matter. What matters is what's behind you. So, do you want to? There must have been times you wanted to try, right? If you do, then stay here and train with me. We had no choice but to let him take Block away like that. Boss, please rescue Block from those damn monsters. We still don't know what kind of training they're doing. It could even be dark magic. I'm very sorry someone got taken like that, but since we know nothing about them, we can't take that risk. Besides, your boss isn't the type of person who would do something so risky. No, today we're going to teach them a lesson. You two, get ready for battle. Why are you suddenly so fired up? This is so unlike you. Come on, move out of the way. That old geezer dared to touch my student. We have to save Block from those ghouls. At the ghoul village, we have a newcomer today. To get started, let's do some squats first. Excuse me, but what is a squat? I'll teach you. Come over here. Squatting is the best way to tone your body and build muscle. What's wrong? What are you trying to do? Sit on the floor, Block? All right, stop. Honestly, doing it like this just makes you look like you're standing up and sitting down. Instead, you need to drive the force into your thighs. That's how you avoid hurting yourself. Spread your feet shoulder-width apart. Block. Like this. Point your knees forward and go up and down as if you're about to sit. You can do whatever you want with your hands. Keep your movements sharp, driving the force into your thighs and hips. That's what we call a squat. Not bad for your very first time. Have you ever trained before? Well, I've studied swordsmanship. Really? Then keep squatting. And remember to keep your movements sharp. Can you raise your hands? Let me place the weights on them. Maintain your posture and squat. All right, excellent. Everyone, let's give Block a round of applause. This guy, even while squatting with weights, he can still hold a perfect stance? Just as I thought. I really have a great eye for talent. Now that's what I call physical training. Block, you followed me because you want to get stronger, right? Well, yeah. I want to be strong just like my friends. I'm just worried you won't be able to handle it. To be honest, I know all too well that no matter how hard someone like me tries, I'll never match up to those with natural talent. But still, thank you so much, Hanso. With your guidance, I think I'll at least be able to take care of myself. What are you talking about? You'll grow strong in a different way, strong enough to protect your friends. Block, you've got a lot of potential. This is the very first time anyone has ever recognized my talent. All right, don't cry now, or your muscles will go completely soft. Requirements met. Falcon Eyes, level 2, skill upgraded to level 3. Lord Hanso, why are you carrying a chick around? We can hunt chickens, but we can't just hunt them recklessly. If we do, there won't be any left. We need to stop them before they go extinct. Hanso, these chickens grow incredibly fast, so raising them shouldn't be an issue. There aren't many monsters in Amai that have the power to wipe them all out. Right now, we are stronger than those chicks, but if they evolve, no one will be able to defeat them except for Hanso. Can't you take them down? Can you really not do it? Actually, that's not quite true. We can. I knew it. Why do you underestimate your own kind? I was almost disappointed in you. Use your femurs and main muscle groups to hold the weight. Heavy blank, 1/10. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's do this. All right then, I'm activating the skill. Heavy blank, ×2. The weight, you've got this. Everyone was training when a stranger suddenly broke into Preda village. Are you the monster who kidnapped my apprentice? I think there's been a misunderstanding. I don't know who you are, and I'm not even the chief here anymore. All I want is a yes or no answer. We haven't been doing anything except training. What are you even talking about? Whoa, he blocked my blade with his bare hands? Did she just injure my muscles? This old lady is dangerous. Hey you two, is this the guy who kidnapped Block? Yes, that's him. Block, our master is here to save you. Block, where are you? Answer us. I'm sorry for interrupting your training, kid, but holding someone else's apprentice captive isn't right, is it? What is this, Block? You already have a trainer? This wouldn't have happened if you had told me beforehand. But is bodybuilding really more fun than swordsmanship? Be honest with me. Why are you hesitating? I'm sorry, master. I prefer bodybuilding over swordsmanship. You went through all this trouble to come all the way here. I'm sorry, master, but I've already found a new master. Is that so? Then I have no choice. I'll have to take you back by force. With that, the strange woman unleashed her heavenly sword ultimate skill and slashed forward. Hanso quickly flexed his muscles to block her attack. This really hurts my pride. Did I only manage to scratch you? Block, is this the kind of physique you want to build? Yes, master. Hanso is so badass. Then let's do it this way. This kid and I will duel for the right to be your master. The martial arts of the winner will have the final say. You might not know this, but bodybuilding isn't a martial art. It's a series of exercises to train and improve your own body. I heard you killed a Cocatrice using this so-called bodybuilding? That was just to get some protein. Everything I did was purely for survival. So bodybuilding is useless in a real fight? What? What did you just say? Why are you getting so angry? Did that strike a nerve? What's the point of training your body if you can't even fight? In other words, it's just garbage. I'll show you exactly what this training is for. The chicken leg muscle compression mechanism is activated. I wonder who would win in a fight between Hanso and that girl. Just look at their builds, you should be able to figure it out yourself. Size isn't everything. Master is one of the 10 strongest people on the continent. Activating Hawkeye level 3. Species, human, class, swordmaster. How is she able to injure me with so little muscle? A human shouldn't be able to cut through my muscles with a sword. Hey, you alien, what kind of martial art are you even teaching? As for the swordsmanship I teach, it's the kind that lets me mince my enemies with sword chi. Let a senior like me teach you a thing or two. Do you know why I call you an alien, even though you look human? It's because your mana is red. The redder your mana, the purer your demon bloodline is. And as for the technique you're using, no human can physically transform during battle. Anyone can transform if they're determined enough. Stop acting like you know everything. That only applies to aliens like you. Humans can only use their inner energy like this to make up for their shortcomings in battle. A single sword cleaves the world. 10,000 swords pierce the heart. No matter how hard you try to spread your martial arts here, it's utterly useless. Do you get it now? To humans, your martial art is nothing but trash. And yet you thought you could defeat me with such shameful skills? So, this is how you've defeated all your opponents? Are those opponents you faced stronger than me? Why should I care? None of my opponents have ever walked away alive. We fitness enthusiasts always strive to surpass those who are stronger than us. Now, I'm going to show you exactly what that means. Block, can I say something? I'm sorry. Because we thought we'd never see you again, we went to our master. We know doing this would make you hate us, but... Wait, what are you two even talking about? Why on earth would I hate you guys? I mean, you only ran off because we forced you to. Wait, what? I only came over here because I wanted to learn more about bodybuilding, and I was actually planning on heading back in a bit. Hanso already gave us the green light anyway. Loke, what kind of martial arts are you planning to learn? We want to know too. Honestly, we just got here, so I'm not really sure either. Hey, Demon King, could you show us the ropes? Sure, just follow me. Do you guys remember what Master said was the most important thing in swordsmanship when we first started training? It's our lower body stability. Exactly. And with the exercise we're about to do, we'll be engaging our entire lower body. We'll be targeting the quadriceps by doing squats. Hanso told us to master the proper form first. But if we want to make things more interesting, wouldn't jumping straight into using weights be super dangerous? Don't worry, I'll spot them. Meanwhile, in another area, Hanso was still exchanging blows with the master of those 3 guys, but something was seriously off. The 2 of them kept pushing back and forth, as if they were lifting weights. Why are you holding back your strength? I'm not. I'm just concentrating my power. In the fitness world, we call this the contraction and squeeze technique. Wait, are those groans coming from Lur and Henda over there? Turns out, this grandfather-grandson duo also got dragged into the gym bro lifestyle by their friend. What on earth? Are they actually training? Oh, that? They're doing squats. It's just part of the workout. Excuse me, but would it be okay if I incorporated your routine into our training program? Really? What made you change your mind so fast? Well, I sensed an absolute burning passion in it. I've found true happiness in watching sweat-drenched bodies push their limits, building a unified alliance through training. While seeing off the master of those 3 guys, Hanso noticed something. Her handshake was absolutely no joke. How do you train? Haha. Curious, are you? Alright, I'll tell you. Honestly, there's no secret. My job is literally to swing a sword all day long. Did you think I had some fancy workout routine? But I am actually curious about something else. Are you really okay with teaching everyone your advanced training methods without asking for anything in return? It's fine. The more people working out, the better. Why do you look at it that way? Because you can work out anywhere. Plus, you'll be way more efficient once you learn different training methods, right? We could literally do this across the entire continent. I want fitness culture to spread far and wide. You're a lot funnier than I thought. I like you. I'll grant you a favor whenever you're ready. That evening, while everyone was having dinner, Loke had something to say. Excuse me, Hanso. You might not know this, but the city I come from is incredibly discriminatory. They target not only mutants, but also dark mages, and pretty much everyone else. When it comes to humans, even their leaders play favorites. Young people like me don't care much about that stuff, but I'm really worried you and our friends here might get hurt, Hanso. Hanso, who was chewing on a piece of chicken breast, agreed that this was a serious issue. In that case, should we take things slow and really think about this trip? Hanso didn't even answer Loke's question, completely focused on the horse's feed bucket. This texture is so crunchy and chewy. No doubt about it, This is the main ingredient for oatmeal. Why do horses get to keep all this nutritious stuff to themselves? This is a serious problem. Look at that kid, he's eating livestock feed. And it doesn't even taste good. I guess monsters really do have terrible taste in food. Hey, if a monster heard you say that, they'd be pretty upset. I've tried those military rations you guys usually eat. Honestly, they're pretty bland. But do you want to taste my food? Wait, is this monster actually offering us food? I think it looks delicious. It has a sweet, clean taste with a subtle hint of spice. And that kick of heat is blended in so perfectly, it's absolutely magical. I lost my sense of taste before, but this is actually making my mouth water. I'll share the recipe once we get closer, so stop trash-talking us monsters. Got it. Man, what a pitiful monster. You said your name was Riona, right? We'll head out tomorrow morning. Do you remember when you said you'd grant me a favor this morning? Of course I remember. Well, I've decided what I want. I need your help getting some grain. Wait, isn't that just livestock feed? You heard what everyone said. I heard you're planning to raise chickens. Are you going to feed them that grain? No, not them. We are the ones who are going to eat it. I mean, it's not a big deal to me, but I'd feel terrible watching you eat livestock feed. She's right, Lord Hanso. She seems to hold a high position among the humans. Plus, we're not even used to eating grain. What did you just say? Say that again to my face. Actually, they're not wrong. If you want something bigger, just let me know. You could upgrade your tent to a wooden cabin, or wear warrior's armor instead of those civilian clothes. And as for food, all you need is chicken breast. I know Lord Hanso absolutely loves chicken. That's not how it works. Eating nothing but protein is terrible for your body, especially your liver. But if we eat a healthy amount of carbs, glycogen will kick in and help us build real muscle. In fact, oats are complex carbs that digest slowly, giving us sustained energy. It is low in calories and packed with nutrients, which is why it is called the king of all grains on earth. So really, what better reward could there be than oatmeal? Everyone was completely speechless after hearing that, having absolutely no idea what this dude was blabbering about. But the ghouls, on the other hand, got super hyped. What is that? Let us see. I bet that is the secret weapon he used to deal with Lady Riona. Do you think so? There is no way we are losing to those monsters. We are eating it too. Look, Block is eating it. Let us give it a shot. But the moment they swallowed it, the entire group instantly wanted to puke their guts out. Damn it, this stuff tastes like absolute garbage. Block, spit it out. It is terrible. Even the muscleheads were spitting it right out. Hey, it actually tastes pretty good, and it has a nice chew to it. Do you guys not see it? He even has a talent for eating. He is going to get strong in no time. He seems incredibly excited. I do not really get what you are saying, but you definitely seem to know your stuff. I will start up production to meet your demands. Are you serious, Riona? You are the absolute best. At least we have got nothing to lose here. General Riona returned to open the city gates. Hey Han, do you remember what I told you? This was a nation of freaks, the strongest country on the entire continent, and a highly biased one at that. The judging stares from the locals made the ghouls feel incredibly self-conscious. What is the matter? Stand up straight and watch your posture. They are only staring because you guys are absolutely ripped. Is that really true, boss? Because I am pretty damn sure that is not why they are looking. And so, right under everyone's judgmental glares, the whole crew began strutting forward, confidently flexing their muscles. Man, why am I actually starting to like these monsters? Meanwhile, over at Castle Watt. So, you have been teaching my soldiers how to train? And on top of that, you are feeding them actual livestock feed? It is not livestock feed, it is oatmeal. You know, like porridge. What an incredibly insolent brat. My general requested to bring these unique monsters into the castle. If it were not for that, I would not have let any of you take a single step inside. Thank you for your generosity, my lord. Just make sure you do not cause any trouble. Teach our soldiers how to train, and then get the hell out of here quietly. Once you are done with your work, if you want to learn too, I can be your personal trainer. I do not need any of that. Just do your job. How shameless. The generals are way too popular, which makes me worry about how we can ever change the public's attitude. This is actually a great opportunity. Guard, bring in the Tutula mercenaries. General, your little guests are about to show their true colors. Over at the training grounds, everyone, listen up and freeze. Today, we are doing a very special training session. Standing right next to me is the special instructor General Ron brought to the castle, the Ghoul Master, Hanso. Wait, the Ghoul Master? Wait, isn't he just a monster? Why the hell is a monster going to be our instructor? I know you guys are not thrilled about your new instructor, but refusing to follow his orders is the exact same as violating military law. Hey there, everyone. I am Hanso, your special instructor for today, and I will be teaching you how to train. I am really not liking the way you guys are staring at me, so hit the deck. Why are you still looking at me? Do exactly as Instructor Hanso says. Hit the deck and suck in those guts, you bastards. Why are you not moving? What the hell are you waiting for? Move it. Come on. Man, this is honestly hilarious. Are you guys seriously taking orders from a literal monster? Cadet, calling Instructor Hanso a monster is a direct sign of disrespect to the general. Is that what you think, Instructor? Do you honestly believe a command from some monster counts as an order from the general? Get back up, everyone. Are you seriously going to let yourselves be ordered around by a monster? Show some human pride. Military orders are absolute. Is there a problem here? Oh, there are plenty of problems. First off, as humans, we do not take orders from monsters like you. Second, this garbage you call training, we have absolutely no reason to practice anything other than swordsmanship. And finally, we have zero interest in learning how to train from a bunch of uncivilized beasts. Wait a second, Instructor Hanso. I think I can handle this. As for your first complaint, the guy standing right over there can teach you on behalf of Instructor Hanso. That solves that problem, doesn't it? Now, about your second issue. I have no idea if your swordsmanship is actually superior since we have never compared them. So, how about a little duel to find out? And as for your last point about who is civilized and who is not, let us settle it with a match, humans. Are you guys ready? We are good to go. Man, these guys are unbelievable. Fine. I accept your challenge. Hey, Instructor, this is allowed, right? I am fighting for the humans. Where is the opponent? Hey, stupid monsters. But I should warn you, I am no ordinary cadet. Let me show you the true terror of a Tutula mercenary, handpicked by the Count himself. The second the battle started, this dude lunged forward, only to get smacked so hard by the ghoul that he was knocked out cold on the spot. Hey, you okay there? Is he dead? I mean, he is still twitching a bit, so he is probably still breathing. Go easy on them, will you? Are you trying to show off? I'm sorry, boss. Forget it. You didn't do it on purpose, so there's no need to apologize. Now, since you guys lost, you have to follow my orders. Yes, Instructor. Little did they know, that young guy had already woken up and was silently gathering his power. Taking advantage of the ghoul turning away, he suddenly lunged forward for a sneak attack from behind, but before his sword could even swing down, Hanso slapped him so hard he got slammed right into the wall. The next day, Riona came to the training grounds to check on everyone. Hanso, how are you holding up? He clearly used magic back there. I agree. I bet he used magic during the match, too. That's exactly why we can't trust monsters. Instructor, I'm not quite following the situation here. Care to explain what's going on? Yes, General. A fight broke out because a few of them refused to follow your orders. And? What next? Our soldiers lost, but some are claiming the monsters used magic. Hanso, did you really use magic during the match? Like I'd ever resort to that. You actually believe that, monster? General, I was just passing by when some pretty interesting things caught my ear. Tell me, what's going on here? General, whose side are you on anyway? You two are siding with these monsters. Of course I'm on the side of humanity. If that's the case, who are you taking orders from now? Did you come here to train? Why don't you get off your horse first? Hanso, I don't think he came here to train. Oh, really? General, I am highly displeased. The guests you brought back are causing some serious trouble for our people. A soldier got injured, and that's a very serious issue. How could a lord like me just turn a blind eye to this? As the lord of the Weird Principality, I hereby exile General Riona for 2 years. But the moment he saw the sheer murderous intent in Riona's eyes, the lord instantly chickened out and shut his mouth. My lord, that can't be. Let us kill those monsters instead. Please, rescind your order. Phew, I almost wet my pants there. Hanso, I'm so sorry. I brought you all this way, yet I couldn't even take proper care of you. Don't worry about it. It's not like we're always welcome anyway. My lord, can we at least let them stay here for 3 months, as promised? I will keep my word. Good. Preparations are complete. Quiet down, all of you. How dare you talk back to the Lord like that? Do you even deserve to call yourselves soldiers of this country after what you just did? But, General, I told you to shut up, you brats. I thought you only discriminated against monsters, but it turns out you also know how to talk back to your superiors. I should step back so that the seeds of the future have a chance to grow. I wonder how this will change those future seeds. It's going to be so much fun when I get back. What's wrong with her? Why is she laughing so creepily? That night, the guy who had picked a fight with Hanso secretly slipped out of the city with his reward money. Just a little more of this, and I'll have enough money to never do this dirty work again. That bell looks just like a flower. Maybe I should open a flower shop? Hang in there, my sweet wife and daughter. Daddy will be home soon. Little did he know, however, that the village where his wife and child lived had already been engulfed in a sea of flames. What a beautiful way for our hometown to welcome us back. Princess, may I have this dance? The next day, 2 ghouls were in the sun slime forest. Wait, didn't you just break your arm? My arm is completely fine now. Hey kids, what are you doing with all those slimes? Oh, it's Lord Block and General Riona. Wait, didn't you say you weren't coming back after you left with her? Well, you guys still haven't answered my question. Hanso told us we need these slimes. For what? Slimes can't even be used for medicine. Come with us. You should probably see this for yourself. Hanso, we're here. Oh, Block, you're back? And Riona too? I just stopped by to see everyone before I leave. I was actually pretty curious about what you guys were going to do next. Use your chest muscles to trap them in a corner. What on earth are you planning to do with those slimes anyway? Watching my students on the training grounds made me realize that traditional muscle building and weightlifting aren't very effective for these kids. In this case, training them like athletes would be much more effective. But we don't have enough equipment, so I'll just have to make them myself. Making training gear out of slimes? Is it like those scarecrows you used for quick draw practice? No, this has nothing to do with swordsmanship. Bring one of the slimes over here. First, once you've got the slime, you do it like this. Take this core out. It'll regenerate in just a few days, so we can leave it out and do this. Since the core is gone, we can make a hole right in the middle of the slime. These slimes are incredibly elastic. Next, we use our hands to stretch them out like this before they shrink back. And just like that, we've got ourselves a training band. It'll look something like this. Riona, I'm sure you didn't know this, but you can do so many different workouts with it. Their elasticity depends on their color, so we can categorize them and do a whole variety of exercises. Sir Hanso, thank you, and I apologize. But what for? I guess you didn't know, but I used to doubt you. I thought you were only pretending to be obsessed with training just to get close to humans. But you were actually sincere with us. I am truly a failure of a teacher for failing to prevent the Wyrote territory from becoming an enlightened country. That is why I had to endure the Lord's absurd demands. But you are different. I believe you can change this country. Change it? Let me see. That is my specialty, but not that kind of change. So is it like this? No, not that either. That is the change I was talking about, the monster trainer. Let's see what he will teach us first. We did not come here because we lost a battle or anything, so do not start doing weird things like lying flat on your stomach. Sir Han, so, can I leave these kids with you? Of course you can. Looks like the number of new members has increased again. Meanwhile, it is not just Hanso's surroundings that are changing. Our enemies are immortal monsters. The terrifying thing about these zombies is that we will also turn into monsters if we get bitten. Be careful, do not let your horses get bitten, and make sure to watch your own backs. Warriors, charge and attack them for me. Bet 'em? No. Wait. If we show up now, we will only get others dragged into this. Just wait a little longer. Bet 'em, those zombies are just props. Training camp of the Gokdu Duchy. As I've said, the physical energy a person can use in a day is limited. That is why we train the essential muscle groups. Do you guys understand what Sir Hanso just said? Everyone, start stretching with the bands to prepare for bench presses. No, today we are doing CrossFit instead of bench presses. Sir, what is CrossFit? CrossFit is a training methodology invented by Greg Glassman. It is a non-stop, continuous training method featuring high performance and high-intensity functional movements. This means it is a workout for various muscle groups across the body, requiring us to perform like a well-rounded athlete with balanced stats. If we form groups and set goals together, it will build teamwork and foster healthy competition. I have already created the roster for each team, so if you have any questions, just ask Gulo. Let's all push ourselves to the limit to finish this workout. During the training sessions, Hans would occasionally hear strange noises. I've heard that sound a few times now. What is that used for? Our Lord has lately been personally fighting the zombies since they started appearing frequently in the villages around the castle. They are signaling for backup. It seems the enemy is much stronger than they anticipated. Hey, you guys, Your core form is collapsing. Drop the weight and do it right. Just as I thought, he doesn't care. According to the scouts' investigation, the enemy base is located at the end of this road. This time, we will wipe them out and bring peace to our homeland. All units, move out. My lord, I'm afraid we have marched too deep into the zombie horde. Zombies have no intelligence, so they cannot strategize. All we need is strength and numbers to wipe them out. Look, our soldiers are advancing steadily. Do not slow down. Keep pushing forward. War is all about momentum. Do not stop until we have completely wiped out the enemy. So, the mastermind behind all this has finally shown himself? Before long, the enemy commander revealed himself. It was Ben, an old friend of Wudo's from years ago. He was shocked to realize that even though decades had passed, Ben had not aged a bit. It turned out that during those years, Ben had been researching and experimenting on his own body. After injecting vials of green liquid into his body, he transformed into a colossal monster. His strength and speed were boosted to the absolute limit. With just a few basic strikes, Gudo was totally wrecked by Ben. Ben mocked Gudo, saying that because Gudo only focused on training with his sword, he remained incredibly weak. As for what Ben was doing, he believed his research would advance and elevate civilization to a whole new level. Meanwhile, Ben's experimental monsters were brutally slaughtering the soldiers. He confidently declared that this was proof his research was right all along. There will always be someone in this world who is great, because of something. But that person is not the standard for an ordinary human. Just as Ben was about to finish Gudo off, his subordinate, Ivan, appeared in the nick of time to block the attack. He screamed at the Lord and the soldiers to retreat immediately, promising to stay behind to hold off Ben and his monsters. Seizing the opportunity, Gudo fled the battlefield on horseback. But his loyal subordinate met a heroic end, killed by the brutal punches of the monstrous beast. Gudo frantically spurred his horse, his breath ragged with anxiety. Panting heavily, he realized this was bad. Images of Ben and those terrifying monsters flashed repeatedly in his mind, leaving him to wonder, how could he ever defeat beasts like that? Meanwhile, in another location, Hansen and his muscle-bound squad are grinding away with terrifying intensity. He keeps lifting giant stone weights, muttering the count under his breath. 152,123, 152,124, 152,125. Hansen's face is completely calm even though his count has already passed 150,000 reps. He keeps counting. 152,138, 152,139, 152,140. Back with the marching army, Gudo barks out an order for a status report. Is there no one to report on our military situation? Lumi immediately steps up to speak. I am the captain of Squad 20, Lumi reporting. Gudo orders her to speak, and Lumi delivers some haunting numbers. Out of 400 soldiers, 347 are dead or infected, 27 are wounded, and only a mere 26 are left standing. Hearing this, Gudo frantically does the math in shock. There are only about 100 reserve troops left in the castle, and most of them are just trainees or wounded soldiers. He roars in anger. Damn it! How can we fight a war with only 126 men? Lumi suggests recalling General Leon, but Gudo immediately shuts it down, knowing they would never make it back in time to reinforce them. That is when Lumi proposes a daring idea. What if we borrow the strength of those monsters stationed inside the castle? Gudo asks in shock. Those monsters? Lumi explains that their leader, Hansen, once possessed power rivaling General Leon. Since the army has been feeding and housing them, they can use that as leverage to force them onto the battlefield. Gudo nods in approval, liking the plan of using monsters to fight monsters. He makes up his mind. Great, let's go with that. He then spurs his horse forward. 3 days later, at the military training grounds, Gudo rides in and roars for them to halt their training. Everyone, fall in. Meanwhile, Hansen and his beefy squad are still standing there in a daze, holding their purple dumbbells. What on earth are you doing? Listen to the Count's orders right now. Gudo looks down at the crowd gathering around them and asks, Hey, demi-human, is your name Hansen? Hansen just smiles casually. Yeah, did you come here for a personal training session? Gudo's face instantly hardens with gravity. No, I came here to give you monsters' orders. He suddenly screams in a fit of rage. It is time for you to repay the favor of being given food and shelter. You lowly creatures. Gudo raises his fist high and loudly declares, From this moment on, by order of Count Gudo, I command you to destroy the zombie horde, marching toward the castle walls. Met with silence and blank stares from the muscular army, Gudo thinks to himself in frustration, low-class monsters indeed. Do they not understand human speech? Just look at those clueless faces. He continues to shout, you have the ultimate honor of being my meat shields, and for you, their leader, Hansen, I will grant you citizenship in the great kingdom of Gudo. Seeing no reaction, Gudo roars with sheer excitement. Isn't this the best offer you could ever ask for? Go ahead and show off that grotesque physique of yours all you want. Suddenly, Hansen bellows, strike a pose, front double biceps, forget the war, let's show off these abs. Instantly, the entire muscle-bound army flexes in unison, confidently displaying their bulging muscles. Witnessing this bizarre spectacle, Gudo can only groan in disbelief. What on earth are you guys doing? Hansen, maintaining his smug grin, explains that this is bodybuilding, a concept born from the vast universe of the gym. Pointing at his comrades, Hansen asserts that showing off their physiques is exactly what he is talking about. However, Gudo has completely lost his patience. He bellows, we do not have time for this nonsense. He warns that if they do not obey his orders immediately, they will get hurt or lose their lives, and then it is game over. Those words strike Hansen's absolute nerve. He immediately unleashes a terrifying, murderous aura, his eyes glowing crimson as he growls, you will never be able to step foot in a gym again, you idiot. If I lose my gains, are you going to take responsibility for that? Under the suffocating pressure and the massive shadow looming behind Hansen, Gudo turns pale, sweating bullets. He stammers, I do not understand what you are talking about, but it looks like I should apologize. Completely defeated, the Count quickly bows his head. No, I am sorry. The overwhelming pressure makes Gudo feel sick to his stomach. He shrinks back and quickly changes his tone. I was wrong. I am so sorry. Please stop flexing. I am begging you. I am terrified. Seeing that Gudo now knows his place, Hansen gives a slight nod, accepting the apology. Not daring to stay a second longer, Gudo quickly spurs his horse and flees with Lumi. Hansen immediately gets back to training, shouting with excitement, all right, break time is over. Let's start over from rep number 1. Meanwhile, on the other side, Lumi anxiously asks Gudo if they should try convincing them one more time, but he flatly refuses, saying they should never have relied on those monsters in the first place. Gudo orders her to call for the general immediately. To Lumi's surprise, Gudo asserts that although his personality is terrible, his strength is unquestionable and easily on par with General Leon. The two silently spur their horses and ride ahead. Gudo orders their entire military force to assemble in front of the city gates. He is determined to show those zombies the true power of humanity. Outside the city walls, a horde of zombies is howling relentlessly, closing in by the second. Atop the wall, General Ox with his colossal physique and signature nose ring stands ready for battle. From inside, Gudo watches anxiously as a sea of zombies surges forward like a raging flood. Suddenly, the general lets out a mighty roar. Halting his movements, he shouts toward the enemy, I received reports that you have an intelligent leader. Ox continues with a proposal. Don't you want to negotiate? From the distance, Ben and his towering minions slowly saunter forward. Gudo is shocked to see Ben there. The guy is casually picking his ear with utter contempt. I was right in the middle of cleaning my ear. What's so important that you had to call me out? Standing high above, Ox loudly declares that despite their massive monster army, breaching this fortified wall is absolutely impossible. He lays down a challenge. So, I, representing the kingdom of Gudo, and you, representing the monsters, how about we settle the score with a one-on-one duel to decide the outcome of this war? Ben laughs with excitement. Sounds pretty interesting. I accept your offer. Seeing that the enemy took the bait, Ox smirks with satisfaction and suddenly leaps straight down from the wall, causing a massive impact on the ground. Amidst the rising dust, Ox growls, Who's stepping up? Right away, a massive, muscular monster, wearing a black mask, covering its face steps forward. It unleashes a deafening roar and begins to flex, showing off its rippling, intimidating muscles. Ox sizes up his massive opponent and remarks, Not a bad size. He immediately charges forward, thinking, Let's see what you've got. After a heavy collision, Ox smirks, You're pretty tough. He unleashes even more power, throwing a barrage of consecutive punches that send shockwaves through the monster's flesh. Suddenly, the monster spits a stream of dark, murky liquid from its mouth. Ox quickly flips to dodge it, thinking to himself, Yep, that's definitely an attack to avoid. Looking at the pool of corrosive liquid on the ground, Ox mocks him. What's up with this rotting body? I've never seen a zombie like you before. The monster trembles, with only one thought echoing in its mind. Danger. He's too strong. It immediately turns around and runs for its life. Ox shouts in disbelief. Are you trying to run? He chases after it relentlessly, roaring, no way. This only ends when one of us dies. Ox quickly closes the gap and grabs the monster from behind. Gudo screams a warning. General, watch your side. Ox barely manages to tilt his body to dodge just in time. He roars in absolute fury. How dare you interfere in a sacred duel? He immediately channels all his strength into his legs, charging straight at the interloper. Suddenly, a devastating, lightning-fast punch lands right on his face, sending Ox flying. He coughs up blood in agony. Cough! Ben appears with a maniacal laugh. Sacred my foot. All that matters is winning, right? He laughs, flexing a massive, muscular arm covered in bulging blue veins. Ben glares with cold eyes and asks, Do you know why I accepted this duel? He growls in assertion. Because you're the only wild card left in this country. Dull, heavy impacts echo continuously, signaling a brutal end. Watching their strongest general being brutally tortured. Gudo and Lumi stand frozen in absolute horror. Their faces turn pale at Ben's extreme cruelty. Ox lies on the ground, gasping for breath, his body utterly broken. He whispers in despair, I'm sorry, please. Please spare me. You want mercy? Sure, of course I'll let you live. While the general is completely stunned, the monster uses his terrifying strength to hurl him high up into the sky. General Ox plummets from the sky, his face frozen in utter shock at the sudden attack. He screams in despair as he plunges straight into a swarm of thousands of shrieking zombies waiting below. A horrifying sound echoes, followed by the agonizing screams of him being torn apart in a sea of grotesque monsters. Out from the crowd, a zombie with white hair and a white beard slowly emerges with blank eyes. It's the once mighty General Ox, now completely turned. Witnessing this horrific sight, Gudo mutters in shock. We are so doomed. My star general is now a zombie. Ben stands watching triumphantly, offering a tempting proposal. Gudo, why don't you just give up and hand over the city peacefully? Do that, and I'll spare your life. Gudo roars back in anger. Don't talk nonsense. Do you really think I'd hand over the kingdom of Gudo to someone who has completely abandoned their humanity like you? Ben laughs sinisterly. Fine, then I guess negotiations have failed. Besides, I never really planned on letting you live anyway. His face instantly turns ice cold. Ben raises his hand and orders the zombie army, march. The zombies madly rush toward the city gates, like an unstoppable flood. In a panic, Gudo screams to his soldiers, Archers, loose your arrows, hurry. But the soldiers on the wall can only tremble and reply in utter helplessness. We've never shot a bow before. How do we even aim? Wow, what a highly reliable army. Witnessing his military's sheer incompetence, Gudo grits his teeth in frustration. He slams his fist against the wall and curses. Damn it! Lumi anxiously approaches him, pressing for answers. Count, what should we do? Gudo stood frozen, sweat pouring down his face, muttering in sheer despair. I don't know. Shocking Lumi, who stared at him in utter confusion. Gudo suddenly snapped and screamed right in her face. I told you, I don't know either. Completely losing his will to fight, the Count turned around and ran for his life deeper into the castle, leaving a stunned Lumi calling after him. Gudo kept running like a madman through the streets, abandoning absolutely everything behind him. In his mind, harsh, mocking voices from his past echoed relentlessly. Gudo, the coward. The laughter of taunting children still haunted him. Gudo is a coward. Even those closest to him used to look at him with disdain, saying, Gudo, running away is what cowards do. Young master is too chicken. That is why he messed up. Another acquaintance mocked him. Is not running away your only talent? Following you when you run is the safest bet. Then, the image of a captured woman and her cries for help flashed in his mind. Gudo, save me. It stabbed like a knife to his heart. Running away, Gudo sobbed in bitter frustration, crying out, I am so tired. He screamed in despair, wondering if anyone ever understood the crushing weight of responsibility, or if they had ever walked a mile in his shoes. Even though he was a cowardly leader who could not shoulder his duties, deep down, he still desperately wanted to protect those he cared about. Summoning every ounce of his strength, Gudo slammed open the door in front of him and yelled through his tears, Of course there is. Please, someone save me. The Count fell to his knees, sobbing like a baby. Big boss. Gudo begged for forgiveness. I was wrong. The gym is the ultimate truth, and heavy lifting is my life. Facing the completely unbothered Hansen and his muscular army, Gudo begged desperately. You can kill me if you want, but please, save my people, save my soldiers, save this country. He buried his face in the dirt, weeping uncontrollably. Surrounded by the beefy squad, Gudo kept slamming his head on the ground. Please, save me. Sniffling. Please, I beg of you guys. Sob. Sob. Hansen looked down at the sobbing wreck at his feet and calmly summarized. So, basically, you want to work out, right? Gudo looked up, completely dazed and confused. Hansen flexed his massive shoulder muscles and declared, Gudo, I do not need your life, but my personal training fees are going to be expensive. He flashed a confident smirk, his massive squad of muscleheads backing him up. A group of soldiers rushed over to Hansen, begging him, Master Hansen, we want to join too. But Hansen immediately snapped at them. Newbies, get out of the way. He flatly rejected help from anyone whose total lift weight was under 400 kilograms, banning them from participating in this battle. Hansen and his muscle army marched off majestically, leaving everyone completely speechless. Watching them from behind, Gudo broke into a cold sweat and thought, wow, they look incredibly ridiculous. But as he stared at their broad backs glowing with a majestic, sparkling aura, he could not help but wonder, why on earth do they look so incredibly cool? Hansen led the charge down the streets, their rhythmic counting echoing through the air. 13, 14, 15, 16. He pointed straight ahead, asking, is this the direct path to the city gate? Realizing the extreme urgency of the situation, Hansen ordered, all right, we are switching to interval training. Sir. The whole army replied in unison, before accelerating at a terrifying speed. The counting kept pacing their thunderous footsteps. 28, 29, 30. Hansen roared, demanding the team maintain high intensity for 1 minute and 30 seconds. The muscle squad unleashed their full power, charging forward like arrows tearing through the wind. Even though they were completely spent, panting with their tongues hanging out, drenched in sweat, they did not slow down for a single second. Witnessing this bizarre, terrifying sight, bystanders could only gasp in shock. They are insanely fast. The muscular army kept charging, leaving a massive cloud of dust in their wake. Amidst the ruins, a mother tightly hugged her young child as bloodthirsty zombies surrounded them. Mommy, the child screamed in terror. Suddenly, a crushing blow slammed down along with a booming cry of, press, instantly pulverizing the monsters. The kid stared blankly at their sudden saviors and tried to comfort his mother. Mommy, it is okay. Those big brothers saved us. Although, these heroes are a bit weird. The mother could only watch in utter bewilderment as Hansen and his beefy squad ran past, completely focused on counting their reps. 16. 17. The boy asked excitedly, Mommy, if I learn swordsmanship, can I become that strong too? Watching those bulging muscles jog away, the mother broke into a cold sweat and replied, Sweetie, that is definitely not swordsmanship. Once the war is over, let us go ask them what kind of training that is. Right by the city gates, chaos reigned supreme as a massive horde of zombies frantically tried to breach the inside. Right at that moment, Hansen's level 3 Hawkeye skill was officially activated, allowing him to see everything with crystal clarity. Watching the screaming undead, Hansen wondered, why do these zombies always scream like that while charging at us? He clicked his tongue and assessed them like an expert. They are nothing but skin and bones. They probably have never even heard of whey protein. One of his squad members panted, trying to explain. Well, about that, they are called zombies. Seeing his teammate hunching over from exhaustion, Hansen immediately corrected him. Hey, keep your back straight even when resting, or you will ruin your spine. Seriously, he has got to be the most dedicated personal trainer in the entire universe. The guy quickly complied and went on to explain that these zombies had absolutely zero intelligence, with only their instinct to feed remaining, making them nothing more than walking corpses. Hearing that, a clear look of relief washed over Hansen's face. Thank goodness, now I don't have to feel any guilt about taking them down, the man beside him asked, panting heavily. Huff. Master Hansen, what should we do next? He asked, watching the massive horde of zombies swarming toward the city gates. Hansen casually proposed a shocking plan. How about we just use our chest muscles to send them all flying? Faced with the other guy's stunned silence, Hansen snapped, What? What is with that face? The other guy frantically waved his hands in terror. No, I am sorry. That is actually an absolutely brilliant plan. Hansen let out a hearty laugh. Right? I knew it. He immediately turned to ask for their input. In that case, would you mind letting me take command of this operation? Impressed by Hansen's determination, they agreed, go ahead, do what you have to do. Orders were barked out in rapid succession. A member of the muscular squad roared, all right, scatter. Teams 1 and 2, fan out across the village and protect the citizens. He continued directing the forces. Teams 3 and 4, get up on those walls right now. Working in perfect sync, they supported the soldiers while fighting tooth and nail to push back the undead. Team 5, support Master Hansen and push those zombies off the walls. Right at the main gate, Hansen was using his monstrous physical strength to single-handedly hold back and repel an entire sea of incoming zombies. Watching this unbelievable feat, the onlookers could only gape in sheer disbelief. Whoa, is that even humanly possible? Still, the situation remained incredibly tense. Gudo roared, ordering them to close the gate. He anxiously pointed out that even if Master Hansen could hold off the enemy, the entire village would be doomed if even a few managed to slip through. Gudo desperately pleaded, so please, find a way to block the gate. Hearing his plea, Lumi yelled back to report, Lord Count, the gate is completely destroyed. She pointed toward the gaping entrance where Hansen was straining to hold the line. There is literally no door left to block the way. Gudo gasped in shock, no, how can this be? Right then, a confident voice rang out. I knew it would come to this. Heavy, ground-shaking footsteps began to echo. Together, they carried a massive kettlebell-shaped metal block with Hansen's name engraved on it toward the gate. Gudo was stunned to recognize a familiar face among them. The weak kid from back then, is that jacked now? Lumi could not believe her eyes either. How on earth are they even lifting that thing? Amidst the chaos of the battlefield, Hansen was casually doing walking lunges. One of the guys straining to carry the weight yelled out, Brock, you go on ahead. Dripping with sweat and gasping for breath, the swordsman asked in utter confusion, what is even happening right now? He gritted his teeth in sheer agony. My quads are completely shot. I cannot even move my legs. Don't give up, senior. I know you can do it. Another muscular squad member chimed in. We all know you are just looking out for our physical health, but if you overtrain and push past your limits, you are going to end up seriously injured. Trembling, he groaned. Don't save me. I would rather die than have Jacker force me to skip a workout. With that, he collapsed helplessly to the ground. Watching him fall, Guro cried out in agony, Senior, no, please do not do this. Guro gritted his teeth. How can the rest of us lift this thing on our own? His vision began to blur from sheer exhaustion, but seeing the silhouette of Hansen single-handedly holding back a sea of zombies at the gate snapped him right back to reality. My vision is blurry, but we can still lift this. Another member rushed over to support Master Guro. He shouted out to coordinate the forces, Team 5, cover the kettlebell team. Kettlebell team, move in and block the gate now. Radiating a brilliant purple energy, the giant kettlebell-shaped block began moving toward the entrance to the sound of heavy, thunderous footsteps. Guro let out a thunderous roar, pouring every ounce of his remaining strength into pushing the massive metal block forward. From above, voices cheered them on. Keep moving. Kettlebell team. The entire squad roared back in unison, filled with determination. We can do this. The giant weight was brought right to where Hansen was holding the line, ready to plug the gaping hole in the gate. Summoning all their resolve and willpower, they screamed, We have got this. Guro gritted his teeth as sweat poured off him, his breathing becoming shallow and heavy under the crushing weight. They shuffled forward inch by inch, constantly telling each other to stay focused. Watch it, until the multi-ton weight was finally slammed down in the exact spot, forming a solid barricade against the sea of undead outside. Seeing his subordinate's tremendous effort, Hansen let out a satisfied smile. He looked down at the exhausted Guro and said, Now that is how you treat your gym equipment. Good boy. Approved. Hearing praise from their mentor was like an instant shot of adrenaline, sending the muscular squad into pure ecstasy. Excellent. The gate is secure. Kettlebell team, take 5. Right away, another commander pointed forward, shouting out his orders. Listen up. Except for teams 1 and 2, everyone else charge in and clear out these zombies for Master Hansen. With that, the muscular army charged as one. Thunderous footsteps shook the city walls as they lunged downward to meet the enemy head-on. They charged straight into the heart of the zombie horde, using pure, raw muscle to obliterate the enemy. Giant, muscular arms grab and toss the monsters aside with ease, forming an impenetrable wall of pure meat. One warrior struggles to hold back the zombies while turning to ask, "Is this form right?" Hansen calmly scans the battlefield before calling out, "Squeeze those glutes a bit more." Even in battle, you have to maintain perfect aesthetics. The swole army shouts in unison. From above, you can see these hulking men easily slamming and tossing the monsters around like ragdolls. Gudo panics and screams, "No, don't." Seeing one of the fighters get bitten on the shoulder, he warns them in sheer terror that a single bite will turn them into zombies instantly. Suddenly, one of the beefy warriors freezes in his tracks, his eyes glowing a menacing red. He grinds his teeth and his body trembles violently, looking like he is undergoing a terrifying transformation. He throws his head back and lets out a deafening roar as bulging, glowing red veins burst across his massive frame. But his teammate nearby just casually sighs, "Stop faking an infection just to slack off, man. We are from the Andes tribe anyway." The guy instantly snaps out of it, chuckling, My bad." Watching this ridiculous drama unfold, Lumi stands there completely speechless. She looks down in utter disbelief and mutters, "Are they seriously messing around right now?" Down below, the muscleheads are still laughing and joking, and they even start daring each other to pretend to turn next. Right then, another shrieking horde of zombies rushes them in a frenzy. Hansen quietly steps forward to face the bloodthirsty beasts. Out of nowhere, a zombie lunges and sinks its teeth deep into his shoulder. Hansen's face goes dark as an overwhelming murderous aura begins to bleed from him. He growls in anger, "You just dirtied my muscles, you bastard." Instantly, a blinding gold energy erupts from his body, blasting the surrounding zombies away in the blink of an eye. Watching from a distance, Ben is stunned by this unbelievable sight and wonders what the hell that is. Sitting on the hill, he narrows his eyes to analyze them. They look like demi-humans or monsters, but why on earth are they helping humans? Ben covers his face and bursts into amused laughter. "Well, this is fun. Did a bunch of gym bro psychopaths just show up?" Ben points toward the city gates and coldly orders his minions to tear them to shreds. With razor-sharp teeth and eyes glowing in the dark, the beasts unleash a savage onslaught. A soldier can only watch in absolute horror as a massive beam of energy sweeps across, crying out in despair. That is General Ivan's attack. Hansen watches with a cold glare as another purple beam streaks across. It is an attack from the general, who is now completely turned. The vicious monsters tear into everything, throwing the entire battlefield into absolute chaos. Gudo runs frantically, screaming for everyone to get out of the way. The moment he spots Hansen, he climbs onto the wall and yells, "Commander Hansen." "He is right over there," Gudo points toward a tree in the distance, insisting that the guy over there is the mastermind behind everything. However, surrounded by his massive, towering squad, Hansen's view is completely blocked, and he can't see a thing. Gudo keeps shouting directions. "Just go straight. Keep going straight. There is a guy with blue hair over there." Hansen flashes a confident smile. "Got it." He turns to his men and says, "I am going to have a little consultation with that blue-haired client over there. You guys keep training." One of the swole soldiers replies proudly, "Yes, sir, we are on it." Hansen's expression instantly hardens. He clenches his fists, radiating an intense, murderous aura, and mutters, "All right then." Suddenly, Hansen performs a reverse pec deck fly with earth-shattering power. His arms swing so fast they leave a trail of afterimages, leaving Gudo to gasp in awe. This is a miracle. A miracle is happening right before my eyes. The sheer shockwave from Hansen's movement wipes out the entire zombie army and the debris in an instant, leaving a completely cleared path to Gudo's absolute amazement. In the distance, Ben sits casually under a tree next to a mysterious figure. He clicks his tongue in sheer contempt, whispering, "Honestly, whether it is these guys or those guys, they are all just a bunch of useless trash." Sweat pours down Ben's face as he bites down on his glove in anxiety, asking his companion, "Isn't that right, Elise?" Elise stands quietly in the shadows and merely nods in response. Annoyed that an unexpected variable has forced him to act, Ben slowly steps out of hiding, ready for a fight. At the exact same time, Hansen strides forward, his massive muscles bulging with every step. As the two face off on the battlefield, the tension reaches a boiling point. Hansen flexes, showing off his massive back muscles as he takes powerful steps forward. Feeling the overwhelming pressure, Ben immediately unleashes his dark power, transforming his body into a pitch-black demon with glowing yellow eyes and razor-sharp horns. Unfazed, Hansen begins to sprint, putting all his power into his legs as he charges like a gale of wind. An earth-shattering collision erupts right in the center of the battlefield. The two locked onto each other, using pure, raw physical strength to overpower one another in a ruthless showdown. Hanson's eyes flared with deadly intent amidst the glowing red dust, his face etched with pure determination to crush his enemy. Facing him was Ben's twisted, monstrous face, grinning like an absolute maniac in his beastly form. Hanson and Ben strained against each other in a breathtaking struggle, the ground under their feet cracking from the insane pressure. Ben gritted his teeth, struggling to hold his ground, but he was completely overpowered by Hanson's monstrous strength. Hanson let out a furious roar. "How dare you touch my VIP client? You're dead meat." He used his giant, powerful hands to squeeze Ben's arms, completely stripping him of any chance to resist. Ben let out a painful gasp. "Ag." Hanson didn't give him a single second to breathe. He grabbed Ben tight and roared, "So it's you, the blue-haired troublemaker." Instantly, Hanson hoisted the monster into the air and slammed him into the ground with bone-crushing force. Ben's eyes bulged, his mouth hanging open in sheer shock and agonizing pain. Hanson followed up with another devastating blow, pinning Ben's head deep into the newly formed crater. Pinned helplessly to the ground, Ben whimpered in terror. "Erg, what kind of insane strength is this?" He struggled, screaming, "Let go of me!" But this monster of a man just stood over him, his eyes glowing red. Hanson coldly asked, "Are you done?" He looked down at his battered enemy and declared, "Now, it's my turn." Hanson pinned Ben hard against the ground, activating his skill, Mountain Climber. Hanson's relentless stomps triggered terrifying explosions, ripping the earth apart into a deep, endless ravine. From afar, Eliz watched the battle with a completely blank face. Meanwhile, across the battlefield, the muscle army and the soldiers were aggressively sweeping through the remaining monsters. Powerful slashes and heavy punches echoed continuously, wiping out any trace of the undead army. Watching from a distance, Eliz assessed the situation, thinking, "Ben, you really are dangerous." Instantly, a cold order was issued to eliminate the threat. The killer machine dashed off, tearing through the forest at a terrifying speed to provide backup. Suddenly, a girl with long brown hair appeared, using her sword to block the killer machine's attack. The stranger coldly asked, "Who are you?" The girl proudly replied, "Look closely. I'm of the lion lineage. I'm not someone you can easily push around." Sharp metallic clashes rang out as the two clashed in a high-speed sword duel, under the watchful eyes of a snarling black wolf. The robot ordered its ally to head to point B, then immediately accelerated, dashing forward like the wind. Lai smirked mockingly. "Did you really think that mediocre swordsmanship could stop me?" The machine coldly replied, "Swordsmanship data loaded. Enemy has 0 chance of winning." It began spinning its blades at maximum speed, creating a violent storm of attacks that surrounded Lai. In another corner of the battlefield, a muscle army member with glowing pink hands yelled out, "Pull, quickly!" The whole team put all their strength into pulling a massive energy rope attached to a purple dumbbell. As the tension reached its absolute limit, a shout rang out, "Now's the time, release." The massive energy dumbbell was launched at a terrifying speed. The skill heavy blunt 1/10 was officially activated, turning the weight into a purple fireball that shot across the sky. Below, both the kingdom's soldiers and the muscle army looked up in awe as a purple glow enveloped everything. Suddenly, the orb exploded into a barrage of deadly light beams, raining down devastating impacts onto the earth, sending towering plumes of smoke into the air and wiping out the enemy legion in the blink of an eye. Amidst the dusty battlefield, the muscle army members quickly coordinated their forces. One pointed and roared, "Reload, now!" The next order was announced loud and clear. Team 1. Check if there are any zombies left in the village. While one group focused on protecting and assisting the villagers behind the sturdy walls, a passionate battle cry echoed across the field. "Bench press time is over. Move to full contact combat training right now." The giant warriors charged into the zombie horde, using their steel fists to crush all resistance. Witnessing this seamless coordination, Gudo stood frozen, silently evaluating them. "I thought they were just idiots at first, but now I realize I'm walking among legends." It felt as though he was looking down at the entire battlefield from high above. Gudo recalled his grandfather's stories about an ancient legend, that among the monsters, there was once a brilliant strategist who sided with humanity, the hero of the Fourth Great Demon Realm War. Looking at Guro's back, Gudo was shocked, wondering why that name was popping into his head right now. Meanwhile, at the center of the ruins, Hanson used his obliques to trap his opponent's attack, leaving Ben utterly bewildered, unable to comprehend what was happening. Ben struggled, but Hanson's grip felt like steel claws choking the life out of him, making escape absolutely impossible. A loud bark echoed through the air, followed immediately by the activation of a skill called Bornado. This was an advanced technique used by Bomon, a perfect combination of wind magic and dark necromancy. The bones spinning inside that whirlwind are incredibly hard, just like tempered steel. A brutal attack like this could easily crush anyone's skull in the blink of an eye if they aren't wearing protective gear. But up against Hanson's rock-hard body, this whirlwind of bones is nothing more than a gentle massage. It turns out his opponent's ultimate move is barely enough to scratch an itch. Seeing its ultimate move treated like a joke, the wolf, Bomb, can only whimper in pure disappointment. But it immediately perks up when it hears the cheering. Good job. Meanwhile, Ben is being choked so hard by Hanson that his eyes roll back and he foams at the mouth. In sheer agony, he resorts to his absolute last resort. A series of syringes filled with a strange green liquid are stabbed straight into his violently flexing biceps. Ben grashes his teeth and threatens, "Everything that happens next is on you. You brought this on yourself." Even after witnessing such an obvious mid-fight steroid injection, Hanson remains completely unbothered. He's totally confident that no matter how strong his opponent gets, they'll never be able to break free from his grip. Suddenly, a hand reaches out from behind and grabs Hanson's shoulder, catching him off guard. Ben's shadow, with glowing eyes and a sinister smile, whispers right in his ear, "Is that what you think?" An earth-shattering crash echoes as Hanson is blasted straight into the sky. Ben's maniacal laughter echoes once again. Kia ha ha. A barrage of energy beams shoots out, crisscrossing at a dizzying speed. Ben screams triumphantly, "You can't even track them with your eyes, can you?" Kia ha ha. The deadly beams of light keep sweeping through, completely tearing up the ground around Hanson. Standing right at the center of the onslaught, Hanson calmly ponders the contraction of muscles. He analyzes the fiber properties of skeletal muscles while energy beams detonate all around him. Ben roars in pure rage. "I didn't want to use this move because of Leon. Why did you have to stick your nose in other people's business and sign your own death warrant?" Ignoring the threats, Hanson continues his mental lecture, thinking about how muscles are divided into white and red fibers, with red fibers storing oxygen to sustain activity. Right in the middle of this overwhelming barrage of energy blasts, Hanson channels all his strength to flex his abs and thighs, proudly shouting out the name of his bodybuilding pose, abdominal and thigh, using his six-pack to stop the apocalypse in its tracks. High myoglobin content gives these muscles their signature red color, helping them resist fatigue. Hanson immediately transitions to pose number 5, sending ripples of flexed muscle across his entire back. Although these red muscle fibers have great endurance, their contraction speed is relatively slow. On the other hand, what about white muscle fibers? Unlike the red ones, Ben begins to feel doubtful as his attacks don't seem to faze his opponent at all. He wonders, "I've been punching until my hands are sore, so how is he still standing there flexing?" Hanson stands tall, his face cast in an intimidating shadow as his eyes glow brightly in the dark. Although white muscle fibers have low myoglobin, causing energy to drain quickly, their contraction speed is completely superior. Lurking in the trees in his monstrous form, he grits his teeth and decides that if this isn't working, he just needs to strike even harder. He recklessly lunges down, intent on just bashing his way through. A horrific collision detonates right against Hanson's body. Yet amidst this brutal storm of blows, Hanson realizes the only way to win this battle, and that is to tank every single one of his opponent's attacks. Hanson grits his teeth and strikes the side chest pose. He tightly flexes every single muscle fiber, letting the energy beams repeatedly collide and explode against his massive frame. Hanson patiently waits for his opponent to wear himself out, knowing that this is ultimately a battle of endurance. However, Hanson still doesn't know the truth. Ben's body was never created naturally. The used syringes scattered across the ground are proof of this twisted mutation. Staring at the pitch-black entity with glowing red eyes in front of him, Hanson gasps in shock. Ben has completely lost his humanity. He opens his mouth and laughs maniacally, "Kia ha ha ha," revealing a terrifying row of razor-sharp teeth. Hanson unleashes a powerful press, creating an earth-shattering explosion that shatters the ground under immense pressure. Witnessing this unbelievable power, Ben's pupils shrink in sheer shock in his monstrous form. He gasps in terror. What kind of punch destroys the entire map? Sweat pours down his distorted face as he grits his teeth, desperately trying to hold his ground. Realizing the massive gap in power, Ben tells himself he must avoid a head-on clash of strength with Hanson at all costs. Hansen smirks with absolute confidence. Anh thản nhiên giải thích rằng, dù sợi cơ có ưu việt đến đâu, thì việc kiểm soát hệ thần kinh trước những áp lực cực đại vẫn là một điều vô cùng khó khăn. Suddenly, Hansen's entire body erupts in a fiery red glow. He flexes his bulging muscles, admitting that even he isn't fully used to his body's constant changes. At this moment, the enemy's blue light beams keep whizzing around Hansen at dizzying speeds, but he stands as solid as a rock, casually wondering when this agile guy will finally get tired. Meanwhile, in a corner, on another part of the battlefield, the colossal monster Farron is frantically sweeping through the soldiers with his powerful arm swings. The screeching clash of metal rings out continuously as he suddenly spins his arms like a giant pinwheel, creating a crushing vortex that blows away everything in the path of the human army. The monster towers over the ruins, his glowing red eyes looking down at the defeated with pure contempt. Weaklings! Just a few spins and you are all dust. Facing that terrifying power, a young warrior still stands tall and brave. He stares death in the face, calmly admitting, "I know we are weaker than you, but the power of our friendship is a different story," the young man shouts with pure confidence, his gaze suddenly turning ice cold as he grips his sword. "I am much stronger than a monster like you." Instantly, a brilliant blue battle aura and sword energy flare up from his blade. He smirks, but his smug grin is over in an instant as his face pales in utter shock. A violent impact sends him flying with a painful scream. "You puny swordsman, watch me show you some real action." Instantly, a chaotic rapid blade, bursting with a vibrant purple battle aura, is unleashed. To the warrior's horror, the monster casually remarks, "Too slow," as his colossal blade slices through the air. With massive momentum, the unstoppable attack crashes down directly toward the one on the ground. The blade stops just inches from Rapier's face. He gasps, "Am I strong?" A cold voice replies, "Weak." A massive shadow, with glowing red eyes, releases an overwhelming, terrifying aura, casting a dark cloud over the entire scene. But before the monster can even make a move, he is sent flying. Everyone on the battlefield is left dazed, unable to process what just happened. Hansen casually steps out of the dust, spits on the ground, and remarks, "Well, you have been lifting heavy, huh? Are we here to fight, or did you guys just come to hit the gym?" The scene shifts to a small village in a remote borderland. In a peaceful setting by a cliff and a river, a cloaked man rushes up the stone steps, frantically calling out the general's name with sheer panic written all over his face. Using all his might, he slams open the door ahead. Seeing him barge in like that, the toned and muscular general, sitting at the dining table, calmly asks, "Barging into a lady's room without knocking is a bit impolite, don't you think?" Her playful teasing leaves the village chief completely frozen in shock. Drenched in sweat, the chief yells that there is no time for jokes and breaks the shocking news about what just went down in the White Kingdom. General Leon tells him to calm down, teasing him for being out of breath when he is only 40 years old. Slapping his hands on the table, the chief cries out, "A horde of zombies is attacking the White Kingdom." He pleads, "We desperately need your strength, General." Hearing this, Leon bursts into laughter. She casually brushes it off, saying the army can handle something like that on their own, and goes back to eating. But the moment the chief reveals that Ben is the one behind the undead, Leon freezes mid-bite. Her eyes turn ice cold. Murmuring Ben's name, Leon chuckles softly, exposing her powerful, muscular back. "Ha ha ha." The female general's hearty laughter echoes through the room. Sweating profusely, the mustachioed officer beside her anxiously stammers, "General, this is no time to laugh." Leon gives a knowing smile. "If we don't laugh now, when will we?" Sucks for Uncle Ben. He just kicked a hornet's nest. Seeing her subordinate's puzzled face, Leon holds up 2 fingers and declares that the White Kingdom currently has 2 unbreakable shields. First is their reliable ally, Hansen, who is currently using his superhuman muscle power to crush the enemy with a single, devastating punch. And the second shield is her beloved niece, the #1 hope of the continent. Leah glides forward at terrifying speed, instantly dropping into a predator crunch stance. Her golden eyes flash with a dangerous, icy glare. Pilates originally came about during the continent's dark age, when endless wars plagued the land. Because they were too lazy to exercise, the elves almost got completely wiped off the map. To save them, a human doctor named Joseph Pilates created and popularized an exercise method combined with meditation, specially tailored for the elves. But today, Pilates has evolved far beyond a simple workout routine. It has been adapted into a peak combat technique. During her stay in the elf forest, Leah tirelessly trained in this martial art. Every move she makes exudes pure grace, utilizing the precision and flow techniques, leaving her opponent dumbfounded as she lightly lands right on top of his weapon. In just 7 short years, Leah completely mastered this technique and made it entirely her own. Leaping high into the air, she unleashes the brisk chop exercise with terrifying power. Facing her enemy, Leah coldly declares, "I will erase your very existence." A massive surge of energy erupts, blasting directly at her target. Leah seamlessly transitions from the 100 to the roll-up, completely overwhelming her foe and leaving him utterly frozen in shock. She coldly declared to her opponent, "You are no match for me." To the opponent's shock, the stubborn robot shot back, "It's not over yet. I might be broken down, but I can still talk smack." Instantly, Lai initiated the circumduction technique, spinning her blades into a relentless whirlwind of attacks. Metal clashed against metal repeatedly as the two plunged into a breathless duel. As she fought, Lai casually mocked him. "Keep spinning. Maybe you'll look like a washing machine." Look at that. The crazed robot unleashed a barrage of sharp blades, surrounding Lai from all sides. An earth-shattering collision erupted right after as their raw powers clashed head-on. Lai activated her battle aura, Powerhouse. She raised her sword high, blazing with golden flames. Looking at her robotic opponent struggling with its bulky weapons, she mocked him. "What's wrong? Looks like having too many arms is throwing off your balance." The robot trembled in utter helplessness under the terrifying pressure radiating from her. Lai coldly declared, "It ends here," and unleashed a powerful hyperextension strike, blasting her opponent away in a blinding flash of light. Amidst the rising dust, Hanson's breath was heavy with exhaustion, yet he stood firm as a rock, leaving his enemy to wonder, in sheer shock. Shouldn't he be completely exhausted by now? Ben couldn't believe his eyes, because according to his calculations, there should have been an overwhelming gap in their strength. He dashed around frantically at maximum speed, creating streaks of light that surrounded Hanson from all directions. Witnessing his opponent's unbelievable stamina, Hanson also began to wonder, why isn't he tired yet? Ben gritted his teeth in sheer frustration as he saw all his attacks going to waste. "Why isn't there any difference between us?" Ben screamed in absolute rage. "What on earth is that body of yours made of?" As he wove an inescapable web of attacks around Hanson, Ben charged forward, his eyes burning with murderous intent as he roared, "I keep punching, but you won't fall. Are you even human, or are you made of iron?" Hanson immediately fired back with iron resolve. "I was just about to ask you the same thing." Ben attacked relentlessly, revealing that the drug he had just used was specifically formulated to target Lon, granting him a massive surge of dark energy. Ben claimed that his current power had reached a level that could rival even an elder dragon. He plunged straight down like an arrow, targeting Hanson. However, Hanson only roared with pride. "Maybe it's because I've been working harder." Ben writhed in agony as the side effects of the drug began to kick in, wheezing. "Side effects already? Quick, give me the neutralizing drug. That's the price of using bootleg steroids." Hanson stood at a distance, watching the opponent's body deform into a bruised, swollen mass of flesh with bulging veins. He calmly walked over and wondered, "What kind of cheap thrill are you trying to get by changing your body shape this time?" Standing before him now was a colossal, grotesque creature, with yellow fluid oozing from its mouth and sickly, glowing eyes. Suddenly, the monster violently spewed out a massive amount of disgusting, greenish-yellow liquid, covering the entire area. Hanson stared at the scene and wondered, an unbalanced diet? Or is it gout? Right then, a system notification popped up to clarify the situation. That wasn't it at all. From within the slimy puddle, Ben's gaunt, emaciated figure slowly emerged, looking completely drained. He trembled, pleading desperately in his mind, "Inject me, quick, wait. Why am I even fighting that monster?" He looked up at Hanson with tearful, yellow eyes and weakly suggested, "Hey, let's just stop this." Ben continued to whine in despair. "Fighting is so exhausting. Why don't we just go grab some coffee?" Especially in a beautiful world like this, Hanson crossed his arms. With a darkened, intimidating face, he fired back. "I don't want to fight either, but you're the one who started all of this." His murderous intent began to surge. Hanson gritted his teeth and roared, "Do you have any idea how many beginners couldn't go to the gym because of you? The ultimate crime, keeping people from working out." Cowering before Hanson's terrifying face, Ben was scared out of his wits. He wept hysterically and begged, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. Why did I even do all this? Please, stop looking at me with that scary face. Ben collapsed into the puddle of slime, sobbing and muttering, I just wanted to save Eliz. Hanson silently approached him, repeating the name with deep suspicion. Eliz. Ben weakly confirmed. Yes, Eliz was. In his memory, the haunting image of a black crow perched on a wooden post flashed back. Eliz was dead. She had been tied tightly to a high wooden post, right before the eyes of an indifferent crowd. The unbearable pain of loss had turned into a burning fire of hatred. Ben roared, Revenge! I came here for revenge! His face twisted into a maniacal grin, as his trembling hand raised a syringe, filled with a glowing green liquid, whispering, This drug is extremely painful, and it drives my mind completely insane. That's the real issue. He screamed in sheer rage at his opponent. I was actually this close to softening up and forgiving you. Without a single second of hesitation, Ben slammed the syringe straight into his chest, forcing the highly dangerous drug into his system. Gritting his teeth with absolute resolve, he took this final dose to send them to their grave. Suddenly, Ben's body erupted with an earth-shattering dark energy, transforming him into a massive monster with razor-sharp teeth and glowing red eyes filled with bloodlust. I'm going to end this once and for all. A blinding flash of light suddenly erupted deep within the forest, unleashing an incredibly violent explosion that forced everyone to shield their eyes in shock. Floating in the center of that light, the silhouette of Elise suddenly appeared, leaving Ben completely stunned as he choked out her name, Elise. Our story flashes back 32 years ago to Gudo County. Under the warm sunlight, a young man was diligently practicing swordsmanship with a wooden dummy, his strikes echoing rhythmically. That was Gudo at 17 years old. Meanwhile, his best friend Ben sat relaxed on a bench with a book in hand, asking, Gudo, why are our people so weak when it comes to magic? Striking with sharp, decisive swings, Gudo snapped back irritably. Am I seriously supposed to know that too? Ben smiled gently, reminding him that since Gudo was the heir to the county, he needed to understand these things. Even though Gudo complained that he didn't want to hear it, he knew his friend too well, so he grumbled while continuing his training. Even if I say no, you're going to tell me anyway. Ha! After a long, intense training session, Gudo finally stopped, leaning on his wooden sword and catching his breath. Phew! All right, out with it. Ben eagerly agreed, and began to explain that, unlike combat aura, magic is incredibly delicate. The stronger your emotional shifts, the smoother your mana flows. He held up the book, Principles of Magic, and pointed out the core issue. The people of Gudo County were always bound by rigid rules and cared way too much about other people's opinions, causing them to constantly suppress their personal emotions. This suppression acts like binding ropes, preventing mana from circulating and stopping their magic reserves from expanding. However, the 17-year-old Gudo confidently insisted that magic was nothing but a witch's curse. He believed that unleashing one's own physical strength was the true spirit and identity of their people. Ben teased, Wow, you sounded just like an old-fashioned politician just now, which immediately made Gudo lose his temper and threaten him. Do you want to die? Ben sat back down on the bench, hugging his book tightly, and muttered that instead of studying useless things like magic, he looked at the wooden sword on the ground and suggested, It's been a while since we sparred. How about it? Gudo smiled and agreed. Sure, let me warm up a bit. Talk big, get wrecked. The match began with the continuous clashing of their wooden swords. Both clashed dramatically. The final score was announced with a massive gap of 123 to 43. Right at that moment, a girl appeared and called out, Master Leon! She walked over and began to scold him. Ben, you're always so impatient. How can someone as talented as you be like this? Ben quietly walked away, scratching his head and muttering, This sword-swinging stuff is so boring, I'm going to study. The female master smiled and explained, That's only because you haven't reached that level yet. You have no idea how exciting it can be. She turned her gaze to him and advised, Learn from Gudo. Look at how much fun he is having. She gave him a playful punch on the chest to encourage him. However, Gudo thought to himself, I don't find swordsmanship fun at all either. Ben turned back to the master and asserted, I only train for fun. I already know I'm dead weight anyway. Leaving Gudo completely speechless, the master pressed him. What did you just say? Ben's attitude suddenly shifted. He stared straight ahead with a cold gaze and asked, Who's that? The purple-haired girl smiled and explained, I'm here for this child, but I'm a bit late with my introduction. She proudly announced, Your training partner for today, who also happens to be my favorite disciple, is Elise. Elise stepped forward with confidence, her white hair neatly braided and a long staff in hand. She tilted her head with a bright smile and teased, "If it's those guys, I think even if they both came at me at once, I'd still win easily." Her words made the two boys boil with rage, and one of them shouted, "What did you just say? How dare a mere girl look down on us?" Gudo and his friend immediately took an attacking stance, but Eliza's expression turned cold. She growled, "Oh, you like being sexist? Take this staff, boy." Elise lunged forward like a flash of lightning, unleashing a relentless barrage of staff strikes that left both of them completely bewildered. The powerful strikes rained down continuously, leaving both of them wide-eyed and stunned, completely unable to fight back. After being completely dominated, Gudo and his friend lay flat on the ground, groaning, "She is insanely strong." From now on, using the phrase mere girl is strictly forbidden. Gudo reluctantly agreed. Yeah. Watching Elise's retreating back, his friend thought to himself, "Elise, she is completely different from those fake nobles." He quietly observed her, feeling a simple yet powerful charm from this girl. In his mind, Elise's radiant smile flashed, and she has a pretty face too. Under the glow of the sunset, he turned to his friend and said, "Gudo, I finally have a dream." Gudo asked in confusion. "What dream?" He proudly declared, "I'm going to marry Elise." Gudo jumped in shock and yelled, "What?" His friend just calmly looked back and asked, "Why are you so surprised?" Gudo stammered, "Your swordsmanship is honestly pathetic. So, you should probably just give up, Ben." But the young man wouldn't back down. "From now on, I'm going to take my swordsmanship training seriously." And just like that, the two threw themselves into relentless, non-stop practice. As time passed, their spars became a daily routine. Ben kept getting better and better, and all his hard work finally paid off when he scored his very first victory. With Elise standing right over there. "Are you really not going to compete?" Gudo just bowed his head in silence. Looking at his sword lying abandoned on the ground and his two friends walking away, Gudo thought to himself, "I want to go with you guys, too." But when he actually faced them, he could only offer a forced, awkward smile, saying, "Yeah, I've just been way too busy with work, so I can't make it." And right after that, he had to face his father's furious wrath. "I gave you the best swordsmanship training, and yet you can't even beat some low-born trash?" his father roared, slamming his hand down so hard the table rattled across the main hall. Gudo could only stand there, shrinking back under the verbal abuse. Disappointed in himself, he whimpered, "Father, maybe I just don't have any talent for the sword." "I don't want to hear another word." A glass flew straight at Gudo's head, leaving him injured and bleeding. Count Leonard Gudo looked at his only son with pure contempt. "Tsk, my only son, and you're this utterly useless?" Gudo trembled as he bowed his head to apologize. "I'm sorry, father. I'm sorry, Lord Count." Later, amidst a pouring rain, Gudo sat all alone on a towering wall, silently staring down at a rushing waterfall in absolute despair. A soldier approached Gudo and said, "If you keep sitting out here like this, you're going to catch a cold, Lord Gudo." Gudo replied wearily, "I'm fine. Leave me be." Suddenly, Elise rushed up from behind, wrapping her arms tightly around his neck as she yelled, "What do you mean, fine?" Gudo gasped in surprise. "Elise," she snapped back. "Look at your face. You look like you're about to die, and you're telling me you're fine?" Without a care, Elise dragged a reluctant Gudo along, muttering about how he had no idea how to actually enjoy life. "Come on, young master, follow me," Elise insisted, leaving Gudo with no choice but to stumble along helplessly behind her. Watching Elise shine with bright smiles as they walked through the bustling streets, Gudo couldn't help but wonder, how does she always manage to smile like that? Seeing her happily try on brand new dresses, Gudo blushed and thought, is spending time with me really that exciting for her? She definitely has feelings for me. There's no way that guy Ben stands a chance. He resolved with absolute determination, if that's the case, I know I can love her more than anyone else in this world. Later, at the military training grounds, Gudo happened to overhear some soldiers gossiping. "Hey, did you hear?" Ben confessed his love to Elise, but she totally rejected him, another soldier asked in shock. "Wait, aren't those two dating?" Hearing that Ben had been rejected, Gudo was stunned, but a tiny spark of hope flared up in his chest. "So, that means I still have a chance." Convinced that Elise must have feelings for him instead, he sprinted wildly through the streets, screaming in his head, "Elise, I don't just like you, I love you." Gudo was ready to throw all caution to the wind. He told himself that even if his father oppressed him, and even if he had to abandon his family, he was completely blinded by love. With his mind completely consumed by his beloved, he resolved, "I'll only look at you, and I swear I'll make you happy." Gudo finally stopped in front of a room, panting heavily from running and sheer nervousness. He reached out to pull back the curtain, his heart pounding wildly as he prepared to face the girl of his dreams. Gudo swallowed hard in tense anticipation and peeked inside. But the scene before his eyes made him freeze in absolute shock. Gudo's face twisted in horror. Tears streamed down his cheeks as he weakly whimpered Ben's name. The night before, under a starry sky, Ben had desperately grabbed Eliza's hand and pleaded, "Eliza, why are you rejecting me? You said you had feelings for me too." He desperately brought up all his efforts. "I practically lived at the gym just because you liked six-pack abs. How could you just dump me like this?" Ben looked at Eliza with pleading eyes. "Please don't do this. Just think about it one more time." Suddenly, Ben's eyes widened in sheer shock as a brilliant blue light began to envelop Eliza's body. Floating in midair, she radiated an immense amount of magical energy and began to bare her soul. "I was born with a body overflowing with mana." Eliza looked at her glowing hands and explained that if too much mana accumulated, it would destroy her very physical being, which is why she had to find secluded places to discharge it. Eliza's face grew somber as she thought about her future. "Right now, I'm discharging my mana in secret to avoid being seen, but one day, this will eventually be exposed." She looked at Ben with a distant gaze and let out a bitter laugh. "I'm still not brave enough to make the person I treasure most an accomplice to this." But ignoring all danger, Ben suddenly lunged forward and hugged Eliza tightly right in the middle of the surging energy storm. Eliza screamed in panic. "Watch out, you'll get shocked. Why did you jump in and hug me?" But as the only magic scholar in the Gudo kingdom, Ben firmly held onto his beloved. His eyes burned with absolute determination. "From this moment on, your problem is something only I can solve." Ben pulled Eliza completely into his embrace and made a solemn vow. "I swear I will spend the rest of my life loving you." Enveloped in the glowing light of love and magic, Ben softly whispered her name, Eliza. Behind the half-closed door, Gudo witnessed the entire scene with a shattered heart. Tears of agony streamed down his face, twisted in absolute despair. He gritted his teeth, holding back a wave of bitter resentment as he watched the girl he loved lying in another man's arms. In vain, Gudo could only whisper Eliza's name. Meanwhile, Ben silently swore to do whatever it took to protect the only girl who mattered to him. In Ben's memories, those beautiful days spent with Eliza and their little dog were always filled with endless laughter. But for Gudo, those same days were long, alcohol-fueled nights spent hiding behind trees, just to watch Eliza release her magical power all on her own. Forced to watch his crush find happiness with another man, Gudo could only bury his face in his hands and sob over an old photograph. But that happiness was short-lived. Suddenly, Eliza coughed up blood, staining her hands a deep crimson. Seeing her in such excruciating pain, a panicked Ben rushed to her side, crying out, "Eliza, are you okay?" Amidst her violent coughing fits and the frantic barking of their dog, Eliza tried to reassure him, "I'm fine. My magic has just been acting up lately, so this only happens once in a while." She even managed a weak smile, teasing Ben about losing his latest sword fight just to lighten the mood. But Ben's face was a mask of pure shock and terror. The overwhelming fear of losing the woman he loved drove him to lock himself away in his laboratory. He muttered to himself, "Seeing you collapse feels like my whole world is crumbling." Ben was absolutely determined to keep his promise to protect her. "I won't step foot out of this room until I find a cure. I think it's finally time to fulfill my promise to you." He desperately pleaded with Eliza to hold on just a little longer, promising to return with a cure that would save her life. Ben began researching a physical enhancement compound he had recently discovered. He prayed this would give him the chance to cure her so they could spend the rest of their lives together. But the price of his obsession was horrifyingly steep as nightmarish, mutated creatures began to emerge from his maddening experiments. Snapping back to the present, Gudo staggered toward Eliza, clutching a bottle of alcohol, which immediately made her suspicious. "Gudo, why do you reek of alcohol from all the way over there?" she asked. In his drunken stupor, Gudo roared with bitter resentment. "Didn't you used to have feelings for me too? We used to be so good together. We were happy." Despite his wild outburst, Eliza remained perfectly calm and shut him down coldly. "I have never had romantic feelings for you. I'm sorry if I gave you the wrong impression. But let's put that aside," she continued. A brilliant blue magical aura began to envelop her body as she asked a chilling, harsh question. Gudo, even if we had ended up together, could you truly love a sinner like me, someone forced to use forbidden magic? Eliz looked at Gudo, her eyes filled with deep disappointment. She bitterly called him out, knowing he was fully aware of her plight but had chosen to look the other way. Clutching his bottle, sweat pouring down his face, Gudo yelled back in sheer frustration, "It's because I was a coward back then. I had to get drunk just to find the courage to say this to you now." He tried to say more, but a choking sob and sudden gripping terror seized him. The Count could only open his mouth, letting out a desperate, silent scream. Seeing that his cowardice hadn't changed one bit, Eliz muttered a quiet apology, turned around, and walked away. She left Gudo behind, burying his face in his hands in utter shame. It seemed he was still paralyzed by fear. Eliz's words had cut deep, twisting the knife in his old wounds. Memories of the past flooded back. It was a time of severe, bone-dry drought, when the cracked earth left the people in absolute misery. An angry mob carrying torches and pitchforks gathered at the castle gates, screaming, "Hey Lord, come out and put on a show to bring us some rain." Standing atop the high walls, looking down at the furious mob, Gudo's father said coldly, "Look closely, son. That is what you call the common people." He casually admitted that while rain would be nice, he wasn't a god and couldn't just wave a magic wand to make it pour. Helpless, Gudo could only hang his head and ask his father what they were supposed to do. Instead of worrying, the old lord turned to his son and asked if he truly believed those people hated them. "They don't," his father smirked. "What they need right now is a scapegoat to vent their anger on someone they can blame for everything." The lord gritted his teeth, clenching his fist with a sinister, malicious grin. With a sickening smile, he revealed that he had already found the perfect target to bear the crowd's wrath in their place. When Gudo tremblingly asked who it was, his father's eyes widened in mad laughter as he spat out the name, "Eliz, the very girl you confessed your love to." Gudo was utterly speechless. He stood frozen as his father clapped a hand on his shoulder, mockingly thanking his useless son for finally being of some help. Count Leonard looked at his son coldly. "Thanks for tipping me off, son. Now I have the perfect shield to throw to the wolves." Gudo protested in horror. "No, you can't do this. How can you do this to the girl I love?" Instantly, a vicious slap sent Gudo crashing to the floor. "You fool!" the Count roared, pointing a threatening finger at him. "How can the future ruler of this land let himself be blinded by pathetic emotions? If I leave this up to you, you'll ruin everything." He turned to his guards and bellowed, "Lock Gudo in his room immediately." Under the cover of twilight, Gudo scaled the castle walls to escape. "Father, I'm sorry," he muttered to himself. "But even if it's your command, I cannot obey you this time." With that, Gudo ran as fast as his legs could carry him, disappearing into the chaotic crowd. Even though she's a woman I can never have, I don't have the courage to just stand by and watch the one I love die. Gudo finally found the scene, and he screamed, "I found her! Eliz!" Seeing Gudo, Eliz, who was being held by the soldiers, desperately cried out for help. "Gudo, save me!" Murmurs began to rise from the angry crowd. Lord Gudo? Could he be the witch's accomplice? In a fit of rage, they yelled that even if he was the Count's son, accomplices must be punished. That's right, we have to wipe out all of her accomplices too. Under the terrifying pressure and the burning glares of the crowd, a terrified Gudo pulled his hood down to hide his face. The absolute worst second male lead in history. Ignoring her cries behind him, he turned and ran for his life, abandoning Elize to watch him go in utter sadness and despair as she stood surrounded by her executioners. Ben cradled Eliza's lifeless body, screaming in agonizing pain over the loss of his beloved. Broken keepsakes fell around him, mirroring his shattered heart. Cut back to reality, where Ben, trapped in his monster form, was still roaring in pure madness. No, Elize. Hanson, with his giant, muscular body, charged forward like an arrow as Ben roared with murderous intent. "Get lost, you bastard!" Unfazed, Hanson put all his power into his arm and unleashed his ultimate move. 1. Arm dumbbell press. Ben roared in madness as he was pinned down. He begged in agonizing pain, "Let me go. Let me go." But Hanson coldly kept up the pressure, leaving his opponent with absolutely no strength to resist as he collapsed onto the ground. Hanson clenched his massive fist, preparing for his next workout. His eyes glowed in the dark as he activated his pullover move, slamming down from above and shattering the ground. Giving his opponent zero room to breathe, Hanson executed a devastating cable pushdown routine. 15 reps per set, for 10 consecutive sets, with absolutely no rest. Hammer-like blows rained down continuously, leaving the battlefield in absolute ruin. With the punishment over, Hansen stood there, staring at his battle-stained hands. Calmly brushing off his shoulder, his face returned to a state of composure as he muttered to himself, "Now, time to clear out the rest of the zombies." In the distance, a massive vortex of energy called the Boninato suddenly erupted, sweeping away everything in its path, watched by a mysterious creature hiding in the shadows. Hansen looked into the distance with a frown and muttered, "That dog is at it again." Looking up at the sky, he asked casually, "Are you planning to take your family with you?" Hansen smiled faintly and commented, "Cute." Instantly, a vortex of bones and debris began to spiral up into the air. Lai, with her fiery red hair, stood tall right in front of the roaring tornadoes. Hearing a bark, she coldly turned her head and declared, "Just take them. I don't care about losers." Witnessing this, Gudo panicked and screamed, "No, we can't let Ben get away like this." He yelled frantically in utter despair. "He's going to come back for revenge. Lai, chase after him quickly. Wipe him out completely, or he'll come back and kill us both." Lai muttered Count Gudo's name, then suddenly drew her sword and dashed forward. She roared with murderous intent, "I'm going to kill you." Gudo stared blankly at her approaching figure and panicked. "Huh? Wait, why does it look like she's charging straight at me?" Ignoring the astonished stares around them, she closed the distance with a look of absolute rage and screamed right in Gudo's face, "Quick! How dare you lay a finger on my man?" Terrified, Gudo ran for his dear life, screaming orders at his soldiers, "Stop her! Stop Lai right now!" A blonde girl standing nearby could only sigh in exasperation as she watched the Count's retreating back. "That guy is running away again." Suddenly, two members of the muscle army appeared, swinging their swords to block her path and advising her, junior sister Lai, "Stop this. And you really should stop." Unfazed, Lai leaped right over their heads and asserted, "You guys can't stop me." Even though she knew that, she didn't slow down for a second. Sometimes, you just have to take action. She assumed a tabletop pose to maintain absolute balance mid-air. Immediately after, she lowered her center of gravity, using her spine-stacking spin technique, channeling all her energy into her legs before unleashing an explosive extension. Lai glided as smoothly as water, leaving Block frozen in absolute shock at her unimaginable speed. The sword in her hand pointed straight ahead, along with a fierce declaration that no one was allowed to touch the Count. Lai moved so fast that the enemy only had time to let out a cry of pain. Lai pulled off a graceful mid-air flip to break free from the encirclement. Block quietly stepped closer, his deep voice commanding his junior sister to stop. Recognizing him, Lai stopped in her tracks, calling out her senior brother's name, Block. She sheathed her sword and stood proud, sizing up the man before her. She remarked that he'd gotten quite handsome, and his muscles were looking pretty impressive too. But she immediately threw cold water on him, questioning if any enemy would ever stand still and take such a slow attack. Block stared blankly down at his hands, breaking into a cold sweat as he realized, "Have I really been working out just for show all this time?" Without giving her senior brother a chance to explain, Lai swung her sword again, launching a relentless assault. She roared, demanding he take responsibility for the downfall of her family. Faced with her lethal sword strikes, Gudo could do nothing but dodge and frantically apologize in a panic. Lai lunged forward, swinging her sword fiercely, screaming, "Don't apologize, just die." The sharp blade stopped just inches from the Count's face. Hansen suddenly appeared, grabbing Lai's ankle with an iron grip, freezing her in her tracks. Gudo rejoiced and called out, "Master Hansen." Lai was lifted high into the air, screaming like a maniac. "Hey, let me go, let me go." Hansen coldly declared his move, the pullover. Using his terrifying strength, he slammed Lai onto the ground, causing a massive impact. Hansen went on to complete a set of 10 reps, relentlessly slamming his opponent into the ground without mercy. Looking at the girl lying there motionless, Hansen suddenly realized what he'd done and blamed himself. "Shoot, I went too hard on my workout. I wonder if this punching bag is still breathing." He worriedly wondered if she was dead. Hansen silently grabbed her leg, dragging her away while explaining to Gudo, "Our warriors are incredibly resilient, so." Gudo quickly reassured him, "She probably won't die." Lai, lying face down on the ground, cheered in her head, "I'm alive." The story then shifts to Gudo's majestic castle. Lai suddenly sat up in bed, screaming Gudo's name. She looked around the unfamiliar room, confused. "Where am I?" A young maid walked in and asked warmly, "You're awake," she explained. "This is the guest room in Count Gudo's castle, Lady Lai." Hansen asked me to look after you. The girl politely asked if Lai needed anything else. Lai looked at the girl and asked, "Hey kid, can you tell me where Count Gudo is?" The girl thought to herself that Lai definitely wouldn't let this go, but she still answered honestly, "The Count is receiving something called PT from Hansen. Would you like to come with me?" Seeing the girl's enthusiasm to lead the way, Lai gave a slight nod. The two of them headed deep into the forest. Lai asked skeptically, "Is the Count really out here?" The girl assured her that he indeed was. As they went deeper into the wilderness, Lai grew more impatient. Is this a workout or a body-dumping trip? The girl just smiled and told her to have a little more patience. Lai silently scolded herself for being so naive, believing that someone who just tried to assassinate the Lord would actually be led to meet him. Suddenly, the girl cheered, "Look, there's Hansen." Lai was stunned to find that they had actually arrived. Catching sight of Hansen, she rushed forward, only to find Gudo crawling on the ground, gasping for air in pure agony. Hansen stood behind him, loudly announcing the next exercise. "Santa Claus bear crawl," Gudo screamed through his tears. "Just kill me." Hansen flashed a bright, smug grin. Instantly, a system notification popped up, stating that inspiration had been drawn from Gudo's screams. Another line of text followed, confirming a new skill had been created. Inspired by Gudo's screams, the system announced that a new skill was taking shape. Below them, Gudo was forced to crawl on the ground alongside a muscular squad, pulling heavy carriages like slaves. He wailed in despair. "Lai, please kill me. I'd rather die than do another set of this." Right then, Hansen obtained the trainer's mindset skill and fused it with his composure skill. Wearing a bright, excited smile, Hansen looked at Gudo. "Kill you? Do you really love this exercise that much?" An epic-grade passive skill called Sadistic Trainer officially unlocked. Hansen's expression suddenly shifted, his eyes rolling back in pure ecstasy as he yelled, "I knew it! Feels amazing, doesn't it? Let's turn up the heat!" Gudo screamed back in horror. "What kind of madness is this?" Gudo continued to howl in pain. "Lai, you said you were going to kill me." Yet, in stark contrast to Gudo's misery, Lai had her hands clasped close to her face, eyes closed in complete and utter bliss. Ha! Pilates and gym have finally found a common language. Shimmering lights surrounded her, as if she were witnessing the most beautiful sight in the world. Meanwhile, the group had to keep pulling the carriages under brutal supervision. In the main hall of the castle, an important meeting was underway, attended by all the top officials. Sitting at the head of the table, Gudo announced with a solemn face, "Since all the key players are here, let us begin the meeting." A minister with a trademark chubby build opened a scroll and announced the first agenda item. "Due to the invasion by Ben, many of our nation's key figures have fallen in battle." The council began discussing how to fill the vacant positions after General Leon refused to return to the kingdom. The minister then asked how they should handle the empty seats. Gudo proposed, "Anyone with muscles and merit gets made an official." The ministers unanimously agreed, thinking it was a brilliant idea. Next was the second agenda item. The minister announced that after witnessing Hansen's training sessions, countless citizens had flocked to the training center to learn bodybuilding. Thus, a new force called the Bodybuilder Swordsman Army was officially established, a massive legion of warriors boasting bulging muscles. Wearing sturdy helmets, they swung their swords in unison and roared a powerful slogan. The minister announced that the position of chief instructor would temporarily be handed over to Good Builder Gong, asking if everyone agreed. Gudo grinned from ear to ear, practically vibrating with excitement. "So, do we have a deal? This is absolutely fantastic news." He then turned and offered his deepest, most heartfelt thanks to Hansen for single-handedly saving the nation's defense. But Hansen suddenly raised a hand, brushing it off as if to say titles and money could wait. With his workout clock ticking, he silently spun around and walked away, leaving the count utterly dumbfounded. A panicked Gudo scrambled after him, pleading for answers. Wait, Hansen Nim. Is something not to your liking?" Standing right in front of Gudo was Hansen's massive, towering back, rippling with pure, intimidating muscle. Suddenly, boom! Hansen obliterated the fortress wall in a single, devastating move, sending Gudo flying backward in absolute terror. He cried out in sheer despair, "What is it this time?" Shaking like a leaf, Gudo whimpered, "Please, tell me, is there something you're unhappy with?" But Hansen's face only burned with a terrifying, murderous aura. Behind him, the muscle squad had already lined up, locked and loaded for their brutal training session. Sensing the looming disaster, an official hissed at a nearby guard, "Hey, put that spear away. Do you want to make Hansen Nim even angrier?" Hansen locked eyes with everyone in the room and growled, "You guys want to join our workout session too?" Gudo slumped back into his chair, weeping and sobbing in complete and utter despair. Ugh, why does it always have to be me? Desperate to escape this torturous workout, Gudo quickly composed himself, clasped his hands with gravity, and barked orders at his ministers. "We are wrapping up this meeting immediately. Summarize every single proposal and report back to me at lightning speed." Sensing their lord's sheer determination, one of the muscleheads actually shed tears of pure admiration and cheered, "The Count is so beautiful." Right on cue, a frantic official rushed in clutching a scroll, eager to present the next developments regarding the plan for the third route. Meanwhile, in the main hall, Lai was facing judgment for attempting to assassinate the Count. But thanks to Gudo's incredible mercy, her sentence was dramatically reduced. Even so, she was officially stripped of her kingdom citizenship. Staring directly at Lai, Gudo said in a heavy tone, "Lai, I know you still despise me." Then, he suddenly dropped a bombshell of an offer. "So, if this isn't enough to satisfy your rage, I will give you the right to end my life." His words sent shockwaves through the room, leaving the guards completely speechless. Gudo himself began to tremble violently. He shrieked in absolute desperation, "No, actually, just kill me, do it." But Lai only offered a radiant, satisfied grin and replied, "I refuse." Gudo collapsed to his knees, clutching his chest and wailing at the top of his lungs, "Lai, please, just kill me. It's way better than having to go through another hellish workout with Hansen." He screamed like a madman, begging literally anyone to step forward and just execute him already. Right then, Hansen materialized out of nowhere behind him and declared, "Great news, you don't have to be the Count anymore. From now on, July 24th is all about iron and sweat." Gudo froze in sheer terror, while Hansen looked absolutely thrilled. Seeing this, the scheming ministers immediately began to huddle up and whisper among themselves. Is he really handing the country over to us? Wait, should we seize this chance and take over? The Count's authority is practically gone. We can totally do this. I can't believe becoming the Lord would be this easy. Witnessing this, Hansen was so deeply touched that tears actually welled up in his eyes. He sniffled, "I had no idea you guys cared so deeply about the training regimen of our nation's people. This is truly beautiful." Hansen burst into a booming laugh, flexing his massive, rippling muscles as he roared, "I am absolutely thrilled right now. No matter who takes the crown, I will personally make sure their physical fitness is pushed to the absolute limit. Talk about a reward that is 10 times scarier than any punishment." Terrified, they instantly did a complete 180, laughing nervously and showering Gudo with praises. "Oh, thank goodness my mother didn't birth me into a noble family. I am absolutely thrilled with my current position. The only one who is truly worthy of being the Count is, without a doubt, Lord Gudo." Following the meeting, the Count eagerly promised to build every single piece of custom workout gear Hansen wanted. With that settled, everyone gathered back in the main hall to get down to the real business of running the kingdom. But even with the kingdom's backing, the advanced workout equipment Hansen dreamed of was way beyond the technical capabilities of the White Kingdom. Word on the street was that only Bios, the Earth Spirit King, possessed the craft to build them. The only catch? Nobody had any clue where this king was hiding. Right then, Lai suddenly chimed in. "Well, even the spirits have to show some respect for my Pilates routine." She explained that, thanks to her years of living among the elves and studying under them, she could easily talk to the spirits. Overjoyed by this news, Hansen grabbed her hands and pleaded desperately, "That is amazing. Please, take me to Bios." Lai stared back at him with a dead serious expression and laid down her terms. "It is not that hard, but in exchange, you have to help me get my revenge." Hearing this, Gudo turned pale as a ghost, terrified that she was talking about him, but Lai immediately set him straight. "Relax, not you, Count. Her true targets were the monsters who slaughtered her entire clan, a dark mage organization known as the Illuminati. Meanwhile, inside a pitch-black cave, a terrified lackey was screaming in pure panic. "There are too many unpredictable variables," he trembled, crying out, "I swear I won't mess up next time. Please." A young girl with orange hair and a creepy, twisted grin sneered mockingly, "Kia hate Ben. He is extremely disappointed in you." Beside her, a chubby monster also chimed in, mocking his lowly origins. The orange-haired girl muttered coldly, "As expected. Maybe things really are better off without a Liz?" Suddenly, a colossal arm, pulsing with glowing blue veins, swung a massive Grim Reaper's scythe, bringing down a thunderous, lightning-charged blow onto the enemy. Faced with the sudden, overwhelming onslaught, the faces of those inside the cave contorted in absolute horror. A massive explosion rocks the entrance of a cave marked with a red triangle, sending dirt and rocks flying everywhere. The deafening blast startles a flock of crows, sending them scattering in panic through the dark forest. Just below the entrance, a warning sign with a skull and crossbones lies abandoned on the ground. A heavy pair of boots stomps on the weeds, as a determined voice rings out. "You are hiding so well, it took me forever to find a place to do my squats." The target is now right in front of Illuminati, a highly muscular female warrior with short red hair, wearing a confident smirk. Gripping her hilt tightly, she is ready for a complete purge. Witnessing this, Ben screams hysterically in absolute rage. "I will kill you!" Watching the ruins from afar, the girl in the blue dress covers her mouth and giggles with pure amusement. Furious, he glares at Kwang-Soo. "Let me add some fuel to the fire." Beside her, the monster Farron squeals with excitement. Suddenly, her gaze turns razor sharp. She mutters, "All right, I have made up my mind." She lifts the hem of her dress, her eyes glowing crimson with pure malice, as she vows to eliminate Eli's. Meanwhile, Ben frantically injects blue vials into his violently flexing biceps, causing glowing blue veins to pulse across his entire body. Dark power erupts, transforming him into a terrifying entity with glowing yellow eyes piercing through the shadows. From a crack in the ground, a pitch-black entity emerges with a sinister grin. "Gyahaha. Doing this is basically betrayal, isn't it?" The shadow monster immediately chimes in. "Betrayed! Betrayed!" An orange-haired girl laughs triumphantly, her voice echoing across the battlefield. "Gyahaha. I will report your little choice to that person." Ben is completely drained, sweat pouring down his exhausted face. Facing a colossal arm reaching out from the void, he lets out one last desperate scream before vanishing entirely into the rubble. Chapter 32 of Jim's Dungeon begins with the girl in the blue dress and the monster Farron rushing through the dense forest. She bursts into a gleeful laugh. Ben really went rogue. He must have seen this coming, which is why he sent him, right? Farron firmly asserts that there is absolutely nothing that person doesn't know. The girl grows curious about what will happen to Ben's research journal, but Farron instantly claims it as his own. Even though she warns him that plenty of other members are eyeing it, the monster confidently insists he will definitely be the one to take it. Farron smugly declares, "What's Ben's is mine." Right under the full moon, Lai instantly activates her battle aura and sword mastery skills. An earth-shattering clash erupts, triggering consecutive explosions that tear up the ground and blow everything away. Amidst the dust and smoke, the girl can only shriek as Farron roars. Lai moves at extreme speed, gliding seamlessly like a ghost through the deep woods. She lands gracefully right behind her opponent, leaving him zero time to react. Farron turns around in shock, gasping in disbelief. Lai stands tall behind him, glaring coldly at the monster and mocking, "Sure are a lot of weeds growing here. Talk about a savage burn, guys." Farron snaps instantly, his entire body glowing with a dark green light as he roars in fury. "Weeds?" He activates his Song of the Decaying Forest skill, unleashing a vibrant wave of green energy that floods the entire battlefield. Farron swings his scythe, conjuring surging waves of magic that frantically chase Lai through the trees. Ancient trees are cut down one after another by the monster's devastating power. He follows up with his Symphony of Rotten Wood technique, transforming into a terrifyingly colossal entity. Lai has to pour all her strength into her legs to repeatedly dodge the devastating attacks raining down from above. The giant monster swings his glowing green scythe in hot pursuit. Luckily, Lai activates her battle aura just in time, radiating a golden glow to shield herself. Fighting back, she casually lectures him. "Let me show you how to pull weeds the old-fashioned way, sweetie." Lai growls, declaring that she won't hold back at all to finish this ritual. Farron's face contorts in terror as he sees Lai closing in right before his eyes, radiating an overwhelming bloodlust. Declaring herself a traditionalist, Lai unleashes her battle aura and ultimate sword technique. Charging forward like a whirlwind, she unleashes a flurry of radiant golden slashes, shredding the green monster to pieces. The powerful strikes leave her opponent screaming in agony before he is completely swallowed by the light. Meanwhile, Gudo is busy using his sword to clear the roadside bushes. "I told you not to cut the grass. The spirits absolutely hate that." Gudo quickly defends himself, saying he only did it to make walking easier for Hansen. Hansen suddenly appears from behind, gently placing a hand on the Count's shoulder. "It's fine. Just go to the back and practice your walking lunges or whatever. Even in the middle of a forest, there is no escaping leg day. Gudo immediately obeys. Hansen turns to ask Lai for directions, feeling like they have been walking in circles. Lai calmly explains that paths used by spirits are completely different from ordinary roads. After walking a bit further, Lai stops and points to confirm. Hansen bounced slightly on the ground to test it out. With soil this soft, it would be a total waste not to do some jump squats. He immediately roared, ordering the entire squad to perform 20 jump squats right then and there. Lai began practicing Elle's breathing technique. She closed her eyes, calmly regulating her breath. Amidst the peaceful silence, Hansen's booming voice rang out clearly as he counted the reps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In this absolute stillness, Lai could clearly hear the birds chirping in the branches and the leaves rustling in the breeze. Even the subtle blooming of flower buds couldn't escape her heightened senses. Right then, the path of the spirits officially revealed itself, radiating a vibrant, multicolored glow that tore through the forest's thick mist. Lai pointed to confirm the location, and instantly, a dazzling burst of magical light flared up, opening a gateway to lead the group forward. Meanwhile, Hansen didn't forget his duty as their trainer. Glancing at the struggling Count, Hansen called out, "Come on, we already agreed not to shout any slogans, but everyone heard Gudo yelling, right? You're already the weakest link, yet you still want to show off." Gudo stood frozen, sweat pouring down his face from pure embarrassment. Hansen barked angrily, "Wake up everyone. This time, we're doing 40 reps. How many reps?" The muscle squad bellowed back in perfect unison, their spirits high. 40 reps. Hansen still wasn't happy with their volume. He roared, "Too quiet, make it 60. How many reps?" The entire squad screamed at the top of their lungs, their voices like rolling thunder. 60 reps. Hansen smiled in satisfaction. Good, 60. Instantly, a terrifying pull dragged the entire group into a vortex. Lai warned them, "Just relax and let the wind carry you." They free fell through a mystical realm filled with drifting rose petals. This was the spirit world, the home of the earth spirits. She proudly announced that this was the land where Mother Guy resided. Guy's domain loomed before them, majestic yet harsh, with active volcanoes spewing molten red lava and floating islands drifting among the clouds. A member of the muscle squad gasped in awe, "Sir Hansen, this place is actually," before suddenly being pinned to the ground by an immense, invisible pressure. Dull thuds echoed one after another as the muscle warriors were slammed face first into the sand, completely unable to move. One of them groaned helplessly, "Coach, this weight is way too heavy. I can't take it anymore." Hansen nodded in agreement. "Yeah, you're right." But instead of being worried, he looked absolutely thrilled. While grinding out some heavy squats, he cheered, "Isn't this place literally the ultimate squat machine?" Watching the massive stone pillars shake with every breath he took, Hansen thought with excitement, "I never expected to find a home gym this high-end." To a personal trainer, the entire world is a gym. Suddenly, glowing text flashed before them, warning them of a massive entity named Bemote. Heavy footsteps shook the earth, followed by the menacing red eyes of giant stone guardians. Hansen stared at the glowing palace, his eyes burning with determination. "I can't wait to go toe-to-toe with this guy." Before them, a towering stone monster blocking the dungeon entrance came into view. A massive, rocky fist slowly rose, preparing to deliver a devastating blow. The massive fist slammed down with explosive force, pulverizing the ground and sending the muscle squad scrambling in panic. But Hansen didn't even flinch. He tensed his body and used his bare hands to hold back the thousands of pounds of crushing weight pressing down on his shoulders. Watching the jaw-dropping display, the squad members screamed in panic, "Sir Hansen, are you okay?" Right on cue, several other stone guardians raised their fists, locking on and preparing to strike as reinforcements. A barrage of stone fists rained down like crazy, burying Hansen under a mountain of debris. He let out a loud roar, but instead of screaming in pain, Hansen sounded completely ecstatic. "Whew, this progressive overload is just too good." With an explosion of raw power, Hansen roared and shattered the stone guardians, sending their rocky limbs flying like matchwood. The impact was so violent that a massive cloud of dust kicked up, blinding everyone. The muscle squad could only call out his name in sheer panic and utter disbelief. The ground began to shake violently from a rapid, rhythmic thumping, leaving everyone bewildered and wondering if an earthquake had just hit. One of the squad members realized something was terribly wrong and screamed, "Run! The master's muscles are about to explode. Hansen stood tall, his eyes glowing with an intense light as his muscles contracted, unleashing a suffocating pressure. He loudly declared that he was increasing the weight, releasing a wave of pure power that sent even Gudo and the bystanders running for their lives. At that exact moment, his tenfold heavy blunt skill was officially activated. Hansen strained as he ground out heavy squats, a massive ball of purple energy weighing down on his shoulders. He slowly counted the reps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Staring at the bizarre scene, the red-haired girl traveling with them asked in confusion, "What on earth is he doing?" A member of the muscle squad casually replied, "Today is Sir Hansen's leg day, the most terrifying day for any gym rat." Seeing her bewildered face, another guy chimed in to explain, "Ah, it basically means a lower body workout day. The seniors here aren't really great with words, so please bear with them." Suddenly, a booming voice like rolling thunder roared down from above. "So, the interesting little ants have crawled all the way here?" The entire group looked up in shock at the violently shifting sky. The booming, authoritative voice continued to declare, "I am Behemoth, the master of Earth in this spirit realm." From between the layers of clouds, a majestic volcanic island appeared in all its grandeur. Behemoth roared down in accusation, "What is your purpose in coming here?" Despite the suffocating pressure radiating from the Spirit King, Hansen remained fully focused on his workout, shouting, 15. He talked such a big game, and yet he's just counting reps for us. The moment he finished his set, Hansen quietly stood up and strolled away, leaving Behemoth completely dumbfounded. The Spirit King could only utter in sheer confusion as he watched Hansen head straight for the shore. Before everyone's shocked eyes, Hansen bent down and began drinking the seawater as if it were a delicious treat. Furious, Behemoth roared, "Hey, I asked you what your purpose for coming here is." Hansen completely ignored him, continuing to drink refreshingly. In his mind, there was only one thought. Seawater is nature's own whey protein. "Drink up, boys." Hansen stood up, his body soaking wet, his bulging muscles glistening under the sunlight. He silently noted that while seawater usually contains too much sodium to be good for hydration, the water here tasted incredibly sweet and refreshing. He told himself he would talk about nutrition later. Seeing this, the muscle squad eagerly chimed in. "So basically, drinking this water helps with muscle growth?" Instantly, the entire army cheered in unison. "Oh, muscle growth! Everyone, dive into the water right now." Behemoth was left completely speechless by the chaotic scene. What on earth are these idiots doing? The entire muscle squad frantically charged into the sea, drinking and shouting with pure excitement. Once his thirst was quenched, Hansen wiped his mouth and casually said, "Ah, that hits the spot. Now, let's talk." This acted like pouring gasoline on a fire, sending Behemoth into an absolute rage. "How dare you drink water while addressing me, Behemoth? You shameless, ridiculous fools." The Spirit King declared he had nothing more to say to these insolent pests. All at once, a horde of giant stone guardians with glowing red, murderous eyes emerged. Behemoth roared, "I will teach you pests, a lesson in manners from the ground up." Behemoth roared arrogantly, declaring that this place was a living labyrinth. Without the guidance of the spirits, intruders wouldn't even be able to find the entrance, let alone escape. He dared Hansen's group to get past the moving stone walls and the waiting army of stone guardians inside to reach the distant volcano. Behemoth scoffed, "Let's see if you can even find your way in." Facing that challenge, Rai immediately got into a combat stance. She channeled energy into her legs and launched herself into the air, using the calisthenics technique, intending to bypass the labyrinth from above. But Behemoth shut it down immediately. "It's useless." He increased the gravity, and a sudden, massive pressure weighed down, catching Rai completely off guard. Unable to resist the pull of the ground, she plummeted in a free fall and crashed violently into the debris, carving a deep crater amidst a cloud of dust. Struggling to her feet after the fall, Rai gritted her teeth in frustration. "The gravity is too intense. I can't move through the air anymore." Suddenly, a series of dry, repetitive thuds rang out, making her look back in confusion. Behind her, the muscle squad was starting to make their move. In perfect unison, they began to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Colossal, muscular arms reached out. The count echoed through the labyrinth. 6, 7, 8. With every count, the ground shook violently under their extraordinary physical strength, working out their arms while clearing the path. Watching this unfold, Behemoth laughed in utter contempt. "You fools. This is the domain of the Earth Spirit, a land of gravity and mineral wealth. He declared that these walls were not something that could be shattered with bare hands. Yet, the counting didn't stop. 9, 10. Hansen suddenly stepped forward. By the 12th count, he focused all his strength into his arms and pressed against the stone wall. On the 13th beat, Hansen let out a deafening roar and pushed forward with monstrous power. A loud explosion boomed as the solid stone wall cracked violently and shattered into pieces under his bare hands. The sudden turn of events left their enemies utterly speechless in shock. One of the members of the muscle squad smiled confidently and explained, "They might be tough, but against us, they're as fragile as crackers." He immediately ordered the rest. "Brothers, let's focus on destroying the walls by targeting the cracks Hansen Nim made." The muscle squad cheered in excitement as the stone walls crumbled effortlessly. Man, these break so easily. However, before their joy could fully sink in, a colossal entity loomed from behind the thick cloud of dust. The muscle squad wondered in shock how to handle these golems as they stared back with threatening, glowing red eyes. But immediately, the battle aura and 9 secret ambush sword skills were activated, and a brilliant golden streak tore through the air, heading straight for the enemy. Rai swung her sword, delivering a lightning-fast thrust right into the glowing red eye, the stone monster's fatal weakness. Rai flipped gracefully through the air and explained to her comrades, "Just aim straight for the eye, poke it, and they're done for." Right after that, the giant golem collapsed to the ground. The muscle squad seemed to be re-energized. They frantically rushed to attack the remaining golems with powerful punches. Amidst the chaotic battlefield, an angry roar echoed out. "You bastards." Ah! A massive, earth-shaking explosion erupted from the distant volcano, sending towering columns of smoke and fire into the sky. Standing before that majestic sight, Hansen remained calm and wondered, "Is this where Behemoth is?" Lai pointed forward and confirmed, "Yeah, the spirit said we have to lift that thing to see him." Before them was a massive stone platform blocking the path, with a long iron shaft piercing straight up into the cave ceiling. Looking at that colossal weight, everyone wondered how on earth they were going to lift it. Hansen casually made a violent suggestion, "How about we just smash it?" At 17 years old, his temper was as hot as a furnace. Immediately, a member of the muscle squad panicked and stopped him. "Hansen, wait, there's a rope connected over there." A flashback shows that Hansen had left Earth and arrived in this world exactly 11 months ago. Despite his massive, colossal body, Hansen was actually only 17 years old, an age still filled with endless thoughts and emotions. A squad member curiously pointed to the cave ceiling and asked, "What is that strange thing hanging up there?" Lai squinted to get a closer look and realized, it's a pulley. But why is it here? All this time, Hansen had tried his best to hide his intense homesickness deep down in his heart. But seeing a familiar object from home right before his eyes, he was completely stunned. Hansen stood frozen, his eyes wide, staring blankly at the object. The emotions he had bottled up for so long suddenly burst, sending tears streaming down the muscle leader's face. It was a nostalgic piece of equipment that he never, in his wildest dreams, expected to see again in a place like this. In the dark cave, a piece of workout equipment stood shining like a priceless treasure. Hansen emotionally whispered its name. "Oh, my long-lost lat-building brother." The Milo is a workout machine developed in the 1960s by American trainer Andrew Memo. He realized that grasping the bar and leaning back was very similar to the lying lat pull-down exercise. From there, he created a machine that helped perform this movement much more safely and effectively. To this day, this equipment has been improved with a wide variety of styles and designs. Seeing the familiar machine, Hansen was moved to tears. Wiping his eyes, he muttered to himself, "It's just a lat pull-down, pull it together. Crying is only going to waste my protein." The muscle squad looked at each other in confusion, asking, "A lat pull? What? What is that?" On the other side, Gudo was trembling with fear. He stammered, "A booby trap? Hansen, is the area of effect large?" While normal people see traps, personal trainers only see weights. Hansen slowly stepped forward and assured them, "No, this isn't a trap." He then addressed the squad. "Let's review the back exercises we've been doing lately. Can someone list them?" A muscle squad member quickly replied, "We've done dumbbell rows, pull-ups, and Romanian deadlifts, sir." "Is that correct?" Hansen explained that since they supported each other, they could perform pull-ups, but normally, most people don't have a workout partner. He personally demonstrated the movement and stated that the exercise with an equivalent effect to pull-ups is the lat pull-down. Since you can freely choose the weight and perform movements similar to pull-ups, this is a back exercise loved by everyone, from beginners to professional athletes. This exercise mainly targets the shoulder blades and the lats. However, if you lose focus, it's very easy to make the mistake of using your forearms, biceps, or shoulders to pull the weight. Hansen excitedly suggested, "Since the machine is right here, how about we demonstrate how to use it?" The muscle squad raised their hands in unison and cheered with excitement. Let's get those gains. Muscle growth. Muscle growth. To start the first exercise on the lat pull-down machine, the first thing you need to do is adjust the thigh pads and the locking mechanism so your torso doesn't lift up. For the second step, grip the bar slightly wider than shoulder width and secure your lower body under the pads. Moving to the third step, Hansen emphasized that you must brace your core tightly and focus on contracting your lats instead of pulling with your arms. He noted that the bar must always move vertically relative to the ground. In the fourth step, lifters must pay close attention not to overarch their backs and absolutely never use momentum to cheat. Hansen turned around with a bright smile to his teammates. "This weight might be a bit too heavy for you guys, so let's save it for next time. Go on in first," the muscle squad replied in unison. "Yes, sir. Happy gains." Hansen channeled all his power into his massive hands. He grunted as he pulled, and instantly, a secret mechanism was activated, followed by a notification sound. "It's open." The giant stone door in the cave slowly slid upward, revealing a path leading deep inside. The whole squad excitedly shouted, "Let's go." Watching this, Gudo turned to a squad member and asked in confusion, why is the training schedule completely different from the actual workout, coach?" The buff guy casually explained that Hansen's physical strength was on a whole different level compared to theirs. Still in shock, Gudo anxiously followed up. "But once he finishes his workout, how are we supposed to get inside?" This question made the muscular soldier break into a cold sweat, stammering, and completely speechless. Inside there. Meanwhile, on the inside, Hansen was still pushing through some heavy-duty sets, loudly counting to 8. The moment he finished his fourth set, he excitedly called Guro over, claiming that if you target the pressure in just the right spot, the muscle pump feels absolutely incredible. Just then, his level 1 out of 10 heavy blunt skill was activated. He tensed up and shouted at the top of his lungs, "All right, Hansen Nim, please come in." The entire muscle squad had to put every ounce of their strength into lifting the massive, multi-ton stone door, urging him, "Hurry up." Hansen casually strolled inside, not forgetting to praise his juniors on their progress. "If this door were a few tons heavier, it'd be a perfect workout for you guys." But the moment he stepped through, the giant stone door slammed down, sealing the entrance shut. Strangely enough, the inside was filled with little hamsters wearing protective gear, busily running around on construction scaffolding. Going deeper, a vast space came into view, filled with blazing furnaces and giant, constantly spinning gears, revealing a mysterious workshop hidden deep inside the mountain. Inside the workshop, countless tiny creatures that looked like little kangaroos kept jumping on buttons to operate the machinery. Blazing furnaces blasted out waves of intense heat, blending with the roaring sound of machinery that echoed through the entire cavern. Watching the hard-working little critters, the girl accompanying Hansen was absolutely thrilled. With stars in her eyes, she squealed in pure delight. "Oh my gosh, they are so incredibly cute." She couldn't help herself and stepped forward, reaching out to touch Hansen's muscles. She said excitedly, "I really want to touch them. They look so soft." Completely forgetting about any danger the moment she saw muscles, she was immediately stopped by Hansen, who sternly warned her, "Hold on. Before signing up at a gym, you need to get a consultation from the staff or the owner first. You can't just go touching people without permission." Seeing her still looking utterly confused, Hansen firmly added that respecting personal space is an absolute rule. Suddenly, a small white dog appeared and loudly declared, "I am Behemoth, king of the earth spirits." But seeing his tiny stature, Guro and a member of the muscle squad couldn't hide their disappointment. The muscular guy even sneered. "What kind of spirit king has a one-pack like that?" Infuriated at being looked down on, the white dog snapped, "Insolent fools! How dare you compare yourselves to a noble spirit like me?" However, the dog's tantrum was instantly cut short by another presence. A cat wearing a white lab coat suddenly appeared, wearing a devious smirk. "Things were getting so entertaining. I just didn't have the heart to interrupt," the cat purred. He then explained that the white dog was actually named Lena, a high-ranking earth spirit, and that he was the real Behemoth. Behemoth warned them not to underestimate any of the creatures working in the workshop, as they were all high-ranking spirits. Hansen and his group could only nod in silent agreement, completely subdued by the Spirit King's overwhelming aura. Looking at Hansen, Behemoth mentioned that he had already gauged his strength through Lena's little test, before asking what brought them here. Hansen went straight to the point. "Can you craft gym equipment?" Behemoth replied with absolute confidence. "Are you referring to training gear? As long as I have the materials and enough time, there is absolutely nothing I cannot create." Seeing Hansen about to speak again, Guro quickly cut in to stop him. No, Hansen Nim. That is not how you negotiate." Stepping forward, he bowed respectfully, following strict, noble etiquette. "Greetings. I am the Lord of the Guro domain, Count Guro." With an incredibly humble and submissive posture, Guro pleaded, "Oh, great feline elder, would you like some fish? Or is there anything at all we can do for you?" Behemoth quietly observed him, thinking to himself, "Well, at least this human has some manners." "You ask about payment?" the Spirit King in the form of a black cat declared. "Money is fleeting, but laboring for me is eternal." Guro immediately bowed even lower, pledging, "I will obey any command you give, O great Spirit King." Behemoth let out a knowing smirk. "Is that so?" He then began to tell them about a notoriously slippery monster that had recently appeared and contaminated the entire area. The atmosphere suddenly grew heavy and ominous, with the eerie cawing of crows echoing through the dark, dense forest. Behemoth explained that this monster was so incredibly powerful that every single adventurer he had sent to deal with it had completely vanished. The grim warning signs left rotting deep in the forest stood as silent proof of just how dangerous the beast really was. Folding his paws, Behemoth laid out his terms. "If you can defeat that elusive beast and purify the land, I will craft whatever you need." Hearing this, Hansen let out an excited grin. "Sounds good to me. Do we get a guide?" The Spirit King explained that while he had only sent mid-ranking spirits before, this time he wanted to get a perfectly accurate assessment of the situation. Pointing a paw, Behemoth commanded, "High-ranking spirit, Lena, you will accompany them." Hearing her name, Lena gasped in utter shock. She scrambled to find an excuse, pleading, "But Behemoth Nim, I still have to manage and supervise the workshop here." But Behemoth instantly lost his temper, baring his fangs with a deafening roar. "Do you honestly think I don't know you spend all day sleeping and sneaking snacks?" He bellowed, "Now get moving." The earth-shattering roar sent everyone, including Hansen and Gudo, screaming in sheer terror. Meanwhile, in another dense forest, the female general, Leon, was desperately running for her life. She muttered to herself, wishing she hadn't poked this hornet's nest. Staring at the massive swarm of dark monsters blocking her path, she gasped in disbelief. "Are there really this many of them waiting for me?" Leon gritted her teeth and took a defensive stance as the monster's maniacal laughter echoed all around her. Bloodthirsty screeches pierced through the shadows. "Swordmaster Leon, capture her, now." Monsters disguised as twisted clowns and black-robed figures surged forward in a wild frenzy. They chanted together in fanatic devotion. Talk about being overly enthusiastic on the clock. These Oculus guys really go all out. Leon suddenly changed direction. As she dashed through the trees, she muttered about the laws of nature. But an interconnected ecosystem isn't afraid of a few bees. And some just want to get the honey, you know what I mean? Instantly, she swung her sword in a beautiful arc, sending the encroaching monsters flying. A commander wearing a headband with an eye symbol roared in fury. "Leon!" Surrounded on all sides, Leon suddenly unleashed a brilliant golden aura. She put all her strength into her ultimate Susan sword style. A tiny insect fluttered across the night sky, as if signaling a terrifying shift in the wind. Drenched in cold sweat, the dark mage stared up at the sky in shock and gasped, "What on earth is that?" He trembled as the terrifying truth dawned on him. No one ever said she was this strong. High up in the sky, hundreds of glowing golden swords suddenly materialized, blanketing the heavens, ready to rain down like a storm of destructive light. A massive pillar of light suddenly exploded, tearing through the darkness and scattering panicked flocks of birds out of the forest. The story shifts to the mascot, Lena, who was busy munching on chunks of rock. She smugly boasted to Hansen that if he wanted to know the past, he just had to watch Big Sis chew on these rocks. Hansen, who was busy doing squats, was amazed by this incredible ability. Suddenly, Lena's eyes went wide with shock, prompting Hansen to quickly ask if she had seen something unusual. But it was a total fake-out, as she squealed with joy because the rock was just too delicious, leaving Hansen and his crew completely speechless. Lena cleared her throat and explained, I was just playing around. These minerals are too fresh, so the memories inside them are extremely short. She snapped at them to stop looking at her like some glutton and immediately ordered the group to find and dig up the oldest-looking mineral blocks in the area. The muscle-bound squad quickly approached the giant boulders. One member cautiously double-checked, asking if they just needed to carry them back. With that, the whole group began sweating and digging around a massive boulder. Standing behind them with his arms crossed, Hansen wondered what his boys were up to. The honest buff guys explained that they were trying to carve out a handle so Hansen could lift the rock more easily. Hansen muttered to himself, thinking about the handle, and then slowly reached out with his gigantic hand. Hansen pressed his fingertips deep into the hard rock. Taking a deep breath, he squeezed with terrifying strength, causing the massive boulder to crack violently under his grip. Sinking his fingers deep into the solid stone, he calmly instructed them that holding a heavy rock is just like grabbing a foam bar for lat pull-downs, boys. His swole disciples standing nearby could only gasp in utter amazement. Whoa! Instantly, Hansen started performing one-arm dumbbell rows with the giant boulder using just one hand. He kept switching stances, rapidly counting the reps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Switch hands. Seeing this, Block stepped up to a massive rock and asked, You mean like this? He effortlessly began performing a snatch deadlift, followed by a smooth sequence of snatch pulls, snatch balances, and finally overhead squats. Block channeled his strength, hoisting the massive boulder overhead before slamming it onto the ground, creating a massive shockwave. Standing in the middle of the dust cloud, Block confidently declared he was done. Hansen smiled with satisfaction and gave him a big thumbs up. As expected of Block, your form has gotten so much better. Wiping away his sweat, the student smiled brightly and replied, At this point, this is nothing. Piece of cake. An energetic training atmosphere quickly spread everywhere. The swole army worked tirelessly, carrying and lifting heavy boulders. The counting of reps echoed through the area. 1, 2, 3, 4. The other members weren't about to be outdone either. They tied heavy ropes around the giant rocks to train their endurance, shouting, 5, 6, 7, 8. Amidst all the chaos, the spirit Lena stood frozen with a small stone in her hand. She looked at the wreckage around her and thought, I told them to find ancient stones, and they turned it into a gym session. Lena quietly popped the stone into her mouth, crunched it, and suddenly froze in absolute shock. Wait, it's an egg, beneath a simple wooden bridge that led into a deep cavern nestled in the heart of the mountains. Inside the dark basement, a man wearing a plague doctor mask and red-tinted goggles sat opposite a formidable partner. He spoke in an enticing tone. We at Oculus highly value your capabilities, Lord Toad. He went on to explain that transforming this place into a dungeon had cost them a massive amount of resources. As he spoke, the bird-masked man lifted his teacup and took a sip, but he instantly spat it all out and screamed in terror. Damn you! How dare you bring poison to the negotiation table? From the shadows, a long tongue whipped out to lick its lips, accompanied by a deep, raspy voice. Poison? It has a proper name, you know. It's whiskey, croak. The figure stepping out was Toad, a powerful leader of the Toadmen. Puffing on a cigar with a bottle in hand, he casually claimed, Don't call it poison, this is the finest spirit to wash it down. The bird-masked man roared in frustration. You already heard his orders. You were supposed to join Ocus, not take over this place. Unable to contain his rage, he charged straight at Toad and screamed, How dare a lowly reptile like you play with his generosity? But just as he was about to strike, the bird-masked man's head began to spin, his vision blurring with dizziness. Toad casually corrected him. Take a closer look, buddy. I'm an amphibian, not some common house gecko. Joining Ocus is fine and all, but I don't like their conditions one bit. Croak, he said as he tipped the bottle back, chugging it completely dry. Immediately, Toad and his lackeys grabbed the weakly resisting bird-masked man, pinning him down as they began pouring the liquor down his throat. Toad mocked, Come on, drink up. The bird-masked man screamed in absolute despair as the burning liquid flooded his throat. It felt like his insides were literally on fire. In no time, the bird-masked man completely collapsed, his bloodshot eyes glassy with drunkenness as he hiccuped uncontrollably. Toad looked down at his utterly defeated opponent and sneered, Now you finally have the face of someone who wants to negotiate. Croak. Flashing a sinister grin, he blew out a cloud of cigar smoke and declared, My friend, we have plenty of liquor to go around. Croak. Behind him, an army of Toadmen in sharp, sleek suits suddenly appeared. looking incredibly menacing. Toad confidently announced, "Now, let's begin the real negotiations." Toad, who was actually CC, the leader of the mysterious Redhead Legion. He looked down at the drunken messenger and sneered, "Get nice and drunk, and then you'll sign whatever I put in front of you, right, buddy?" Meanwhile, the spirit Lena suddenly squealed with excitement. "Found you." But as she peered down into the valley, she instantly froze at the sight of a muscular army training intensely. Their synchronized chants echoed throughout the region. Lena narrowed her eyes in disgust, thinking, "Ugh, these lowlifes, these half-breeds." She couldn't believe these creatures were so obsessively extreme about working out. Two members of the muscle army were chatting while working out, and one of them complimented the other. "Your lats are looking as wide as eagle wings lately." The other humbly replied, "It's just the pump, man. You're the one who actually increased your weight." He smiled and asserted, "Heavy weight is the absolute truth when it comes to muscle growth, after all." This statement immediately struck a nerve with another teammate, making him freeze with a serious look on his face. "Wait a minute. I can't just let that slide." Unleashing an intense, fiery aura, he countered that muscle stimulation was far more important than mere weight. He began to flex, showing off his rippling muscles to prove his point. Across from him, the other guy wasn't about to back down, radiating a bright red energy and roaring that heavy weight was the ultimate truth. The two immediately locked horns in a heated debate, constantly shouting their beliefs as the air exploded with clashing forces. The two muscular warriors stood face to face, their intense aura enveloping the entire area. "Less talking, more lifting, or you're gonna lose your gains, sweetheart." One challenged, and the other didn't flinch for a second. Stretching his limbs, he confidently accepted the challenge. "Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing." The other members of the muscle army watched and whispered among themselves. "Whoa, look, they're actually fighting." Another mused, heavy weight versus muscle stimulation, huh? "My pecs are feeling incredibly hyped right now." Right after, a warrior flexed and let out a mighty roar with glowing eyes as the two gym bros instantly struck their posing positions. Someone commented that the heavyweight lifter's front lats looked bigger, but the muscle stimulation lifter had far superior balance and symmetry. The tension escalated as the call for pose number 1 echoed. The two warriors hit a confident front double biceps pose together. Right after that came the command for pose number 2. Right at the climax of the showdown, Hansen suddenly appeared from behind and coldly asked, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" The boss's sudden appearance startled the members, who stammered in absolute terror, "Master Hansen." With a murderous look on his face, Hansen growled, "Did you guys just mention abs?" He pointed and roared, "Heavy weight or muscle stimulation? Instead of wasting time thinking about that, I'd rather put all my energy into training and then put all my energy into resting." One member sadly muttered that he was genuinely curious about which one was more important. Two others immediately rushed over and clung to Hansen to get a straight answer. "Stimulation is more important, right, boss? And no way. Heavy weight is the ultimate truth." Hansen looked straight at them and fired back with a question. "Between dumbbells and barbells, which one is more important?" The question left them completely dumbfounded. The question completely fried the entire army's brains. Hansen continued to grill them with tough anatomy questions. "Between your hamstrings and your quads, which one is more important? Why does a meathead have to ask such tricky questions?" Flexing his chest and traps, he roared, "I'm asking you, between your traps and your pecs, which one is more important?" Watching from a distance, Gudo broke into a cold sweat as he muttered to another squad member, "I sort of get what he means, but don't people usually compare moms and dads?" The muscular soldier quickly put a finger to his lips to quiet him. "Shh. Leader Hansen has incredibly sharp ears." Gudo could only nod frantically in sheer terror. Seeing his junior tearing his hair out from overthinking, Hansen walked over, placed a hand on his shoulder, and said gently, "You don't need to overcomplicate things." He flashed a bright smile, showing off his bulging muscles, and offered some sincere advice. "Just add more weight and feel the pump, right?" Hansen's words struck a chord deep in the young warrior's heart. Moved to tears, he silently whispered his leader's name in endless admiration. That day, the entire muscle army felt that truth with their own bodies once again. Hansen enthusiastically announced, "That was just the warm-up, boys. Now, the real training begins." Everyone believed with absolute certainty that Hansen was the one who would help them transform and shatter their limits like never before. The entire army shouted in unison, "Understood, boss. Let's do this." Uracha let out a mighty roar that echoed across the entire region. From afar, a tiny creature was busy gnawing on a mineral rock. It stealthily watched the muscle army, wondering if they actually planned on doing their mission. Meanwhile, Lai looked quite skeptical. She watched their movements and wondered if any enemy would ever stand still just to take such sluggish attacks. In another corner of the forest, Lop stared silently at his hands with a pensive look. He used to be confident that he had become incredibly strong, but Hanson's reminder about strengthening his supporting muscle groups if he truly wanted to break through kept haunting his mind. Lop pushed forward through the dense forest, muttering to himself, "It has to be around here." He pushed aside the bushes to search, until his eyes suddenly lit up as he spotted his target. Lop cheered excitedly. Found it! Seeing the lush green slime hiding in the grass, he immediately got the idea to use it to make a resistance band for training. Without a moment's hesitation, Lop leaped into the air and roared his technique. Axe chop. He plunged down, unleashing a barrage of strikes on the liquid monster before finishing it off with a powerful cross punch. However, a strange presence made Lop freeze in his tracks. From up on a tree branch, a bizarre creature was quietly watching him. It was a toad beast man, holding a bag packed with slimes. He casually apologized for harvesting this delicacy, which was meant for making wine, claiming he didn't know someone else had already claimed it. Lop stared at him in disbelief and gasped. "A beastman?" the toad man asked curiously. "But what do humans even use slime for? You're not a mage, are you?" Lop scratched his head and replied, "Well, you wouldn't get it, but it helps me get stronger." Hearing this, the toad enthusiastically cheered. "You want to get stronger? Why didn't you say so earlier? My boss is an absolute expert in that field, an amphibian scam artist." Lop asked skeptically. "Really?" The toad immediately coaxed him. "Follow me, I'll introduce you to him." Even though he thought to himself that he already had Master Hanson, curiosity got the better of Lop, and he followed along. Before he knew it, he was dragged into a wild drinking party with the toadmen. Gulping sounds echoed as Lop chugged down massive jugs of alcohol. The toadmen cheered in excitement. "You've got a high tolerance. You must drink a lot, huh?" Lop's face flushed red as he hiccuped uncontrollably. "I'm just a lightweight, but you guys are pouring it on heavy." Slurring his words, he asked sleepily. "So, when? Hick. Do I get stronger?" Hick. A toad wearing a monocle leaned close to Lop's face and smiled deviously. "Aren't you getting stronger right now?" the toad yelled. "The brew is kicking in. You're clearly getting stronger by the second." Talk about a toad playing fitness guru. Lop's head began to spin. He stumbled amidst the empty bottles scattered all over the table. Lop mumbled drunkenly, "This is bad. I can't drink anymore." He collapsed onto the table, completely blacking out. The monocled toad looked at his trapped prey. Flashing a wicked grin that bared his pearly white teeth, he declared, "My dear customer, this tab is going to cost you a fortune." In the pitch black, Lop woke up with a bone-dry throat. He whimpered, so thirsty. Staring around in confusion, he wondered where on earth he was. A splitting headache hit him, making him groan. "Ugh, my head hurts so bad." As his mind cleared, he was shocked to find himself in a massive, dark cave. He tried to struggle, realizing he was trapped in a slimy green sludge against the cave wall. Its stickiness and elasticity were so intense that he was completely unable to break free. Suddenly, a raspy voice echoed from the shadows. "A newbie, huh? Just sit tight and wait to be dinner, kid." Lop looked over in confusion only to see a bizarre creature imprisoned right next to him. He explained that this was the Toad tribe's toxic food pantry and introduced himself as the Lizardman chief of the Ali mine. He asserted that there was absolutely no way Lop could break out of here on his own. Seeing no reaction, he roared, "Don't you dare ignore me." But then he clicked his tongue, mocking himself for losing his temper at someone who was already as good as dead. Block calmly asked, "Hey, I have a question. Why didn't they just kill us right away?" The Lizardman leader explained that it was all to help create the dungeon. Seeing Block's clueless expression, he explained that it was a dark land where monsters constantly spawn. A gloomy tower with eerie blue flames emerged in the depths of the cave, signaling a truly evil presence. In reality, spawning monsters infinitely is impossible. To keep the dungeon running, they have to drain the life energy of living creatures. This is the basic concept behind creating a core that can store and sustain energy. That is why those amphibians are hoarding living creatures in their food warehouse. Throwing them in here basically turns them into power banks for the cave. Thousands of people are imprisoned along the towering cliffs in absolute despair. Block was stuck tight in the thick green slime. Exhausted, he asked, "Is there really no way to escape?" The Lizardman leader imprisoned right next to him coldly replied, As you can see, the chances are zero. He told Block not to waste his energy struggling, because the more he moved, the faster his energy would be drained, before mockingly asking if he wanted to die early. Block closed his eyes in utter helplessness, blaming himself. In the end, it was because he was too weak that this happened. He whispered his final apologies. "Master, I am sorry. I didn't even get to lift heavier weights." Upon hearing that name, the lizardman's face instantly went pale, and cold sweat dripped down in sheer terror. "Hansen? Don't tell me you're talking about you, Hansen, the bear lord of the Aleo mine?" Block, utterly bewildered, confirmed. "Yeah, that's him. How do you know?" Instantly, the leader shrieked in absolute panic. "Ah, we have to break out. We have to leave this place right now." He struggled frantically, desperate to break free from the very slime he had just claimed was impossible to escape from. Witnessing this sudden dramatic shift, Block questioned him. "What are you doing? Didn't you say struggling would only make us die faster?" But the lizard man had completely lost his mind to fear. A terrifying memory flashed through his mind the time Hansen used him as a weight to do push-ups. Back then, Hansen had casually laughed and said, "All right, push-ups on the field. Let's start over from number 1. Here we go." Thinking of that horror, the lizardman leader cried out in tears. What kind of crazy monster is he? He screamed at the top of his lungs in absolute despair. Dying right now would be a mercy. Meanwhile, back in the city, Hansen looked around and wondered, where did Block go? A member of the Muscle Army reported that Block had left his resistance bands behind and went to Sunslim early in the morning. Hansen was a bit worried, since Block hadn't told him. Otherwise, he would have given him a spare band. Lai, who was standing nearby, also expressed suspicion. "Isn't it way too strange that he isn't back by now?" Hansen offered a confident smile and reassured him. "He's a big boy now. At worst, he'll just lose a few ounces of muscle." Gudo looked around anxiously and chimed in. "Lord Hansen, this is enemy territory. It might not be a good idea to just take our sweet time here." But as soon as the words left his mouth, his eyes nearly popped out of his head. Hansen was casually carrying a massive boulder on his shoulders. With a bright but incredibly intense smile, Hansen said, "Well, if you don't want to take it easy, then start doing 100 squats right now." Gudo could only weep silently, his face drenched in sweat and tears from the grueling workout. In the midst of this, the Spirit Lay explained their upcoming mission. Their target was a toadman named CC. He's planning to turn this place into a dungeon, so you must absolutely not use your strength in certain areas, otherwise you'll end up helping him. Hearing this, Hansen pondered. A toadman. Huh? I've heard frog legs are packed with protein. They must be great for building muscle, right? Those words instantly fired up the muscle army. They roared frantically. "Is that true, sir? Is it really good for building muscle?" Oh, muscle growth. The beefy men crowded around the tiny spirit and roared. "So, where is this protein source?" Lee cried out in terror. "Save me. A bunch of monsters are asking about the menu." One of the muscle heads immediately proposed, "How about we split into teams to search? If you find him, flex your pecs to send a signal." However, Hansen didn't seem too thrilled. "I don't really like doing cardio for too long." Seeing a golden opportunity to escape the hellish workout, Gudo beamed and volunteered himself. "Lord Hansen, leave the searching to my expertise. Please, let me handle this." Even though his legs were shaking violently from exhaustion, he kept begging to go on the mission. Hansen looked at Gudo with a knowing look and asked, "So, did you finish those 100 squats yet?" Gudo kept a forced smile on his face and admitted, "Not yet, sir." Instantly, Hansen's face lit up in a terrifyingly cheerful way. He gently ordered, "You can go only after you finish all of them." Finding himself old but stuck with such a strict teacher, the poor Count was left speechless. Tears streamed down his miserable face, and he managed a feeble, "Yes, sir," in utter despair. Meanwhile, the Toadman hummed a tune as he dragged a massive sack through the narrow crevices of the cave, heading deep into a vast chamber containing a giant red urn. There, he met another of his kind and announced, "I have returned." A warty toad hand touches a magical orb containing an entire galaxy. The mechanical door slowly grinds open, accompanied by an invitation. "Welcome in, Toadman." A glowing mass of energy shines brilliantly and mumbles, "I will soon make plenty of friends for you." He pours all of that light into a deep abyss and commands, "Grow up and become the perfect nourishment for this dungeon." Down below, the captive lizardman leader realizes with horror the presence of the predators. "We are doomed. The giant earthworm bosses are coming." Giant worms crawl all over the ground, heading straight for the trapped victims. The bloodthirsty worms close in on the cliff where the lizard man leader is stuck tight. They bare their razor-sharp teeth, preparing to strike. Meanwhile, back at Hanson's camp, a member of the muscle squad asks anxiously while stuffing his face. Boss Hanson, Block did not bring his chicken breast. Is his protein intake going to be okay? Hanson casually chews on a piece of bread and says confidently, Block? He will be fine. He was blessed by heaven after all. Seeing his subordinate's bewildered look at the idea of Block being born with a special power, Hanson explains that Block actually has the absolute worst taste buds in the world. Seeing that his subordinate thinks of it as a flaw, Hanson chuckles and replies, If you cannot taste anything, then everything tastes like chicken breast. Meanwhile, down in the dark dungeon, Block suddenly unleashes his power, his eyes flashing with light. Instead of being terrified, he opens his mouth wide and begins to devour the very monsters that are trying to attack him. A terrifying truth is revealed. Except for his own parents, there is absolutely nothing on this earth that Block cannot eat. Block wolfs down the monster meat, slimy fluids dripping from the corners of his mouth. With eyes burning with hunger, he roars in excitement. Next. Who is next? Wet, disgusting chewing sounds echo endlessly through the quiet space. Block is stuck tight to the cliff by a layer of thick green slime. Right beneath his feet, dozens of giant worms are writhing around. Witnessing this horrific sight, the lizardman imprisoned next to him screams in sheer terror. What? You can actually eat that? That is disgusting. In stark contrast to his neighbor's disgust, Block looks absolutely refreshed. He feels the energy surging through every single cell of his body. Man. Worm juice is so sweet. My muscles are totally pumped. His face lights up with pure satisfaction, as if he has just savored a 5-star delicacy. Block begins to flex, channeling all his strength into his muscles to break free from the restraints. Ugh. Even though the lizard man keeps insisting, I told you, there is no way out of there, Block refuses to give up. His eyes suddenly flash with an intense, suffocating purple light. A loud explosion rips through the slime, leaving the monster next to him completely dumbfounded. You actually broke out? Block forcefully tears himself away from the cliff. He slowly raises his head with a sinister smirk on his face. He casually asks, Now, which one of you should I eat first? The monsters shriek in terror at being put on the menu. He points down at the writhing worms and challenges, Go ahead, take a guess. Block's twisted smile and drool of anticipation make the atmosphere even more bone-chilling. Meanwhile, in a sun-drenched forest, the muscle squad is busy jogging for their training session. One of the members asks out of curiosity, Boss Gudo, is there any benefit to collapsing the dungeon? Gudo firmly assures him that collapsing a dungeon is definitely rewarding. Just trust me. Hanson explains that a dungeon, once established, its range of energy absorption will expand. The absorption speed also increases, allowing the owner to secure a recognized, distinct territory. One of the muscle squad members asks while jogging, But why don't humans build dungeons? Gudo, catching his breath, explains that it is because humans do not know how much energy is required to create them. He emphasizes that human society already runs on taxes, and if their biological energy is drained as well, total chaos will surely break out. Gudo holds his head in stress, knowing that maintaining a dungeon is an incredibly difficult puzzle for an average population. The little spirit explains, if an environment appears to have no energy, there are 2 possibilities. First, they are deliberately keeping their territory small to prevent external invasions. Lena continues her analysis, saying the second possibility is that they have another goal besides creating a dungeon. Gudo and the warriors all look deeply concerned, because in either case, turning this place into a dungeon is going to be extremely difficult. Lena mutters to herself in curiosity, What exactly are you planning to do? Meanwhile, at the enemy's lair, the Toadman is drinking heavily, singing and cheering in high spirits. The Toad adjusts his monocle and asks slyly, Do you know why we should drink? It makes it much easier to trick each other. He proudly claims that alcohol helps make friends easily. The Toad laughs out loud among his cheering minions, believing that thanks to alcohol, they can get close to all kinds of people. The rowdy tavern is filled with all sorts of drunken monsters. The Toad suddenly shoves a contract in front of Block's face, offering, My good friend, do you want to sign this contract? By this time, Block has completely lost his mind, standing there dazed, stammering incoherently with a blank stare. The Toad minion poured alcohol down his partner's throat while urging him, Drink up, ribbit. Standing before the crowd of sluggish, drunken monsters, the Toad bellowed, All right, everyone, it's time to brew some alcohol. Let's head to the factory, ribbit. The exhausted monsters dragged their feet through the dark, gloomy cave, their faces showing nothing but pure exhaustion. Suddenly, a horned monster went absolutely wild from alcohol withdrawal. He screamed in desperation, "Give me alcohol, give it to me, or I'll smash everything to pieces." Instantly, the toads smashed a liquor bottle right over the crazed monster's head, knocking him out cold with a severe head injury. Looking down at the collapsed monster, he panicked, "Oh no, Ribbit, quick, take him to the venom pit." He then led the cheering, hyped-up crowd of toadmen and declared, "All right, to make your jobs easier, let's go dig up some Pete the key ingredient for smoky whiskey." Ribbit, grabbing a shovel, one of the toadmen demonstrated to his crew. "You gotta do it like this. Put your entire body weight into it, Ribbit. That's the old toad's mandatory cardio session, guys." Amidst the dusty, smoky worksite, Hansen suddenly showed up and turned the back-breaking labor into a high-intensity workout. He pushed carts overflowing with rocks and hoisted massive boulders, all while the miners cheered him on with echoing shouts of "Ribbit." Hansen dug with his shovel at a terrifyingly fast speed, excitedly muttering to himself, "I can really feel my lats pumping now." He truly was the biggest gym freak of a miner in history. Smiling confidently, he wondered if he should engage his pecs to push even harder. Witnessing his mind-blowing strength, two toadmen stared at each other in utter shock and whispered, "Is he one of us?" Ribbit. The other nodded in agreement. "One of us? Yeah, must be." Ribbit. Meanwhile, Hansen clapped his hands to get the attention of the surrounding toad people. "Break time is over. Let's get to the next set." Under his guidance, the entire crowd of toad people went into a frenzy, working like mad. Flexing his muscles and posing, Hansen urged them on. "Shoveling mud without flexing your chest is terrible form, guys." Swept up by Hansen's sheer enthusiasm, the toad people began digging like maniacs, their shouting echoing through the cave. Hansen continued to demonstrate how to use the shovel like a bodybuilding workout, shouting, "Relax your triceps. Treat it just like a dumbbell press. Picture the shovel as an extension of your elbow." The toad people worked up a massive sweat, their voices echoing in unison, "Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit." But then one of them turned defiant and yelled, "Why the hell should we listen to you, Ribbit?" Seeing them lose focus, Hansen picked up a shovel with a dead serious look and warned, "Hey, don't mistreat your workout equipment." Flashing a terrifyingly bright smile, he demanded, "All right, let's take it from the top." The toad people began whispering among themselves, realizing that Hansen was definitely not one of them. "You're not our friend. You just look like a total maniac, which is why we got confused." Ribbit. Hearing this, Hansen looked baffled and asked, "What are you talking about? Didn't we just agree to be gym bros?" This was the absolute last straw. The toadmen flew into a rage and shrieked, "What freaking workout? You're definitely an enemy, Ribbit." They lunged at him all at once, slamming their shovels hard onto Hansen's shoulders and back. Yet, despite the brutal assault, Hansen stood as solid as a mountain, leaving the toad people completely frozen in shock. He slowly turned around and calmly chided them, Hey, you shouldn't use gym equipment to hit people." Hansen added with a stern warning, "Attacking someone with weights is a quick way to get your gym membership revoked, you know." The iron shovels had shattered into pieces upon hitting his steel-like muscles. Trembling with fear, the toad people stammered, "The shovel. It just broke on its own. Ribbit." Maybe it broke because we've been shoveling too much dirt, Ribbit?" One of them stubbornly insisted. "Seriously, how could a scrawny guy like him withstand our attack?" Instantly, an earth-shattering red aura erupted, enveloping Hansen as he transformed into a towering, terrifying mass of muscle. Hansen stood tall in the midst of the red mist, his blank white eyes glowing in the darkness. He muttered with a suffocating, murderous aura, "Me?" A suffocating pressure crushed the room as Hansen growled, "Did I hear you right?" His colossal physique radiated an overwhelming pressure, leaving the tiny toadmen below shivering in absolute terror. To maximize muscle growth, heavy lifting is crucial, but stretching with things like resistance bands is just as important. Hansen, his eyes blazing and muscles bulging, roared as he demonstrated the stretch. However, overstretching can significantly drain your raw power. Meanwhile, right under his boot, a toadman was being pinned down, gasping for air. Wheezing in sheer desperation, it pleaded, "Spare me, my tongue is going to rip off." But Hansen kept pushing, urging them to stretch properly, and shouted, "The absolute most important thing is keeping perfect form." Hansen flexed his muscles as he stretched the red band, asserting, "If you don't want to be a scrawny weakling forever, you've got to stretch." Writhing in agony from being used as a literal resistance band, the Toadman screamed, "Somebody help me!" Meanwhile, in a luxurious room, a group of Toadmen gathered to plot their next move. One of them, sporting a monocle, swirled his glass and admired himself. "Just look at me in the mirror, handsome and brilliantly cunning." He smirked with self-satisfaction, realizing that with just them around, they could easily run the dungeon without Okus's help. The leader raised his bottle of liquor, declaring in a booming voice that today was the perfect time to raise a toast. He ordered all the heavy drinkers to assemble immediately. Below him, the Toadmen cheered wildly, while many others had already passed out on the ground from being dead drunk. Deep inside a dark cave, CC sat calmly sipping his drink at his desk when he noticed someone approaching. He lightly adjusted his monocle and asked, "So, you finally made it?" Standing before CC was the core leadership of the Redhead Corps, known as the Drunkards. Kavat, the Wolfman, let out an excited roar, calling us all here. "Does that mean we're finally ready to go wild?" Julay immediately chimed in to remind him, "Control yourself, Kavot, have some manners." Behind him, Gulam, the giant white bear, cleared his throat with a low rumble. Ahem. Meanwhile, the blue-haired girl, Randip, was already savoring the thrill of the upcoming battle, while Teokes maintained his usual dismissive scowl. "What a waste of time. I was having a great nap before you dragged me out here," Teokes grumbled. But CC just let out a smug, hearty laugh. "Excellent. Teammates should always be this close," CC said. Suddenly, his glasses flashed with a sharp gleam. He declared that since it had been a while since everyone gathered, they should all enjoy themselves. In an instant, a massive magic circle expanded, enveloping them all in a blinding light. The drinking game was officially activated. A powerful surge of energy radiated outward, reaching all the way to the cellar where giant wooden barrels of liquor were stacked high. Sudden system notifications began to chime rapidly. Sacrifice confirmed. Transporting the sacrifice. The entire cellar was swallowed by a dazzling flash of magical light. From the center of the glow, a pyramid-shaped creature with a long, bright red tongue suddenly emerged. It proudly introduced itself. "I am the four-sided die, Nagaro, and I will be your guide." Nagaro eagerly declared, "The drinking game has begun. Choose your players for each side." It began scanning the entire area and announced, 380 intelligent lifeforms detected. Nagaro went on to explain that everyone would be split into two teams based on their alignment. Hansen, who was casually munching on a sweet potato, jumped in surprise when Nagaro suddenly popped up right in front of him. He blinked in confusion and asked, "What on earth is this?" The game master announced that each side would have 5 active players, while the rest would be spectators. Nagaro squealed with wild excitement. "Now, who's going to play with me? If you don't play, I'll make sure every single one of you gets instantly wasted." Hearing this, Hansen panicked. He hurriedly reached out to his masters. "Grandmasters, what exactly is blood alcohol level?" Immediately, a system screen popped up to reply, "Long time no see." In reality, alcohol doesn't directly cause muscle loss. Hansen listened intently as the Grandmasters explained that because the liver, the organ responsible for protein synthesis, prioritizes breaking down alcohol first, muscle development takes a major hit. An illustration showed his liver working overtime to process the alcohol, making Hansen realize this could seriously ruin his hard-earned gains. Breaking down alcohol also consumes massive amounts of water, leading to muscle dehydration, which significantly tanks workout performance and efficiency. The moment he heard his muscle gains were in danger, Hansen's face went completely pale, and he roared in pure outrage. "Muscle loss? No way in hell." He instantly slapped his hand onto the magical screen. The system immediately announced, "You Hansen has joined the game." Seeing this, Guro walked over, curiosity piqued. "Is that all it takes? Just press it?" Right at that moment, Gudo rushed in, sweating bullets. "Hold on, don't do it," he screamed, desperately trying to prevent a total disaster. Gudo was sweating with anxiety. Believing it was an enemy spell and likely a trap, he warned them not to touch the screen so recklessly. Inside his head, the Count quickly calculated his options. Instead of taking unnecessary risks, it was far better to sit back and observe to keep himself and his soldiers safe. Gudo wore a sly, scheming smile, but his expression instantly shattered as he screamed, "I literally just told you not to press it." While struggling to pull Guro back, Gudo's hand accidentally slapped against the screen. He let out a horrified shriek as the words "Gudo has joined" flashed before his eyes. If I don't join, Hansen Nim might think I'm just slacking off." He reluctantly pressed his hand against it, and the system confirmed his entry. A small white cat suddenly appeared, explaining that this was the enemy's conditional field magic. While this type of magic didn't have an immediate effect, it would trigger extremely severe penalties if certain conditions were met. Hearing this, Lai quickly analyzed the situation, deciding it was best to draft their heavy hitters to carry the team. The white cat agreed completely. Both of them touched the screen, and the system chimed. Lai and Lena have joined the game. Nagaro shrieked with excitement. The players have been decided. Team A's official lineup was revealed. Hansen, Guro, Gudo, Lai, and Lena. Across from them, Team B's roster was set with CC, Randip, Kavat, Ket, and Tiokas. Nagaro eagerly declared, "Now that our players are set, let's choose the game." A golden pyramid began to spin wildly before launching itself into the middle of the forest. Nagaro boomed, "Our game for today is Bunny Bunny." The golden pyramid ground to a halt, displaying the title, Bunny Bunny. Nagaro explained, "The rules are simple. All players will turn into bunnies. However, each team will have one player who isn't a bunny, but a carrot. You must protect your team's carrot while fighting the enemy. If your carrot is captured, the losing team's blood alcohol level will spike by 0.1%, and the game will end. The most brutal punishment for the underdogs. Obviously, catching one carrot is way more profitable than catching 3 rabbits, isn't it? Even the reserve players can join in. This is going to be one wild and exciting drinking game. Start. A Toadman proudly flashes a thumbs up. This is pure luck, Ribbit. He sneers deviously. The carrot on our team is the guy with the hidden name, right, Ribbit? But a major question remains. Who exactly is this censored guy? Suddenly, an earth-shattering explosion rips through space. The Toadman flees in absolute panic, screaming for help as he runs for his life. There is a player over here, Ribbit. Requesting backup, Ribbit. He panics as he realizes things are looking bad. Over 10 people have already swarmed that area. Can he really survive being the carrot, Ribbit? The Toadman grits his teeth in grim determination. I have no idea, Ribbit. But, looking up in absolute shock, he screams in sheer terror. He's way too strong, Ribbit. In an instant, Hansen appears with his massive physique, his glowing red eyes radiating a fierce, burning aura. Hansen roars in absolute rage. You dare touch.